Beneath the shifting sands of deserts and the dense jungles of forgotten lands lie the remnants of civilizations that once thrived, their stories waiting to be unearthed. What if I told you that these ancient cities, now silent and buried, hold secrets that could reshape how we see our own world today? From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the enigmatic ruins of the Maya, these lost cultures offer more than just relics. They provide a window into the ingenuity, struggles, and dreams of humanity itself. Why do these ancient mysteries captivate us so deeply, and what can they teach us about our present and future? In this journey through time, we'll uncover the hidden stories of forgotten civilizations, explore their remarkable artifacts, and reflect on the timeless lessons they offer. Together, let's step into the shadows of history and discover what these ancient voices have to say. There's something undeniably magnetic about the remnants of civilizations long gone. Perhaps it's the way their silent ruins whisper stories of grandeur and decline, or the thrill of piecing together fragments of a world that once was. For centuries, humanity has been drawn to these forgotten cultures, not just for their artifacts, but for the deeper questions they provoke about who we are and where we come from. Take the Indus Valley civilization, for example. Flourishing over 4,000 years ago, it boasted advanced urban planning, intricate drainage systems, and a written language that remains undeciphered to this day. Its sudden disappearance leaves us wondering what caused such a sophisticated society to vanish, or consider the Nabateans, master architects of Petra, whose rock-carved city stands as a testament to their ingenuity and adaptability in a harsh desert environment. Their ability to thrive in such conditions challenges our modern notions of what progress truly means. But why does this fascination persist? Is it the romantic allure of stepping into the shoes of those who came before us, or the intellectual challenge of solving historical puzzles that have stumped scholars for generations? Maybe it's the realization that these ancient cultures, though separated by time, shared the same fundamental struggles and triumphs that define our own lives. Their stories remind us that innovation isn't a modern invention, it's a thread woven through the fabric of human history. And as we uncover their mysteries, we're not just learning about the past, we're gaining insights into our own potential and resilience. What's even more remarkable is how these discoveries are made. The tools of modern archaeology, ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR technology, and even artificial intelligence are unlocking secrets that were once thought lost forever. These advancements allow us to glimpse into the lives of people who lived millennia ago, connecting us to their world in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. So, as we stand on the brink of uncovering even more about these ancient societies, let's take a closer look at how these tools are revolutionizing our understanding of the past, and what they've already revealed about the civilizations that continue to captivate us. Imagine standing in the middle of a dense jungle, surrounded by towering trees and thick undergrowth. To the untrained eye, it might seem like nothing more than wilderness, but beneath the surface lies a hidden world, an ancient city swallowed by time. This is where the magic of modern archaeology comes into play. Gone are the days when uncovering the past relied solely on shovels and brushes. Today, archaeologists wield an arsenal of cutting-edge tools that allow them to see beyond the visible and into the heart of forgotten civilizations. Ground-penetrating radar, for instance, sends electromagnetic pulses into the earth, revealing structures buried deep below. It's like giving the ground an X-ray, uncovering hidden chambers, roads, and even entire cities without ever breaking the surface. Then there's LiDAR, a game-changing technology that uses laser pulses to map terrain with astonishing precision. When mounted on aircraft, LiDAR can strip away layers of vegetation to expose the contours of ancient settlements. This is how researchers have rediscovered lost Mayan cities in the jungles of Central America, revealing sprawling urban centers that were once thought to be mere isolated ruins. Satellite imagery, too, has transformed the field, allowing scientists to scan vast areas from space and pinpoint potential archaeological sites with incredible accuracy. These tools have turned the impossible into reality, giving us a bird's-eye view of history. But archaeology isn't just about digging or scanning, it's also about decoding. Ancient texts, often written in scripts that have puzzled scholars for centuries, are now being unraveled with the help of artificial intelligence. By analyzing patterns and comparing symbols to known languages, AI is helping to crack codes that once seemed indecipherable. Take the Indus Valley script, for example. Though it remains largely a mystery, new computational approaches are bringing us closer than ever to understanding the messages left behind by this enigmatic culture. What makes these investigations truly fascinating is their interdisciplinary nature. Archaeologists work hand in hand with geologists, computer scientists, linguists, and even artists to piece together the stories of the past. It's a collaborative effort that blends science with creativity, proving that history isn't just about facts, it's about imagination and interpretation. And as we continue to uncover these hidden worlds, we're reminded that the past is far more complex and interconnected than we ever imagined. As we marvel at these technological breakthroughs, it's worth asking, what can we learn from the voices of the past? Ancient texts, whether carved in stone or written on fragile parchment, hold clues to the beliefs, struggles, and triumphs of those who came before us. In the next section, we'll explore how these writings, often overlooked, are key to unlocking the cultural mysteries of forgotten civilizations. Among the countless treasures left behind by ancient civilizations, few are as tantalizing as their written words. These texts, etched into stone, pressed into clay, or inked onto fragile parchment, are like time capsules, preserving the thoughts, laws, and beliefs of people who lived thousands of years ago. But unlocking their secrets is no easy task. Deciphering ancient scripts is a bit like solving a puzzle with missing pieces, except the pieces are words and the clues are scattered across centuries. One of the most famous breakthroughs in this field came with the Rosetta Stone, a slab of black basalt discovered in 1799. What made this stone so extraordinary was its inscription in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs. By comparing the Greek text, which was already understood, with the hieroglyphs, scholars like Jean-François Champollion were able to crack the code of ancient Egyptian writing. This monumental achievement opened the door to understanding one of the world's most iconic civilizations. Yet, not all ancient scripts have been so cooperative. Take the Minoans of Crete, for example. Their linear script, used around 3,500 years ago, remains a mystery to this day. Despite decades of study, linguists have yet to decipher its symbols, leaving us in the dark about much of Minoan culture. The challenge lies in the lack of a bilingual text like the Rosetta Stone, a key that could unlock the meaning behind the symbols. Without it, researchers rely on patterns, context, and educated guesses, piecing together fragments of a language that has been silent for millennia. It's a reminder of how much we still have to learn about even the most studied ancient societies. Multilingual inscriptions have been a game changer in decoding these ancient languages. When a single text appears in multiple languages, it provides a Rosetta Stone-like key for decipherment. The Behistun inscription in Iran, for instance, is carved in 3 languages: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. This trilingual text played a crucial role in unlocking cuneiform, the script used by ancient Mesopotamian civilizations. It's fascinating to think how a single stone can bridge the gap between cultures separated by time and geography, allowing us to hear the voices of people who lived over 2,000 years ago. But ancient texts are more than just linguistic puzzles. They're windows into the lives of those who wrote them. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the mid-20th century, are a prime example. These ancient manuscripts, hidden in caves near the Dead Sea, contain some of the earliest known versions of biblical texts, as well as writings on daily life, religious practices, and community rules. They offer a glimpse into the spiritual and social world of a Jewish sect living over 2,000 years ago, shedding light on their beliefs, conflicts, and hopes. Through these texts, we don't just see history, we feel it. Decoding these ancient writings is a collaborative effort, bringing together linguists, historians, and even computer scientists. It's a blend of meticulous research, creative thinking, and technological innovation. And as we continue to unlock these ancient scripts, we gain more than just knowledge. We gain a deeper connection to the human experience across time. But texts are only one piece of the puzzle. To truly reconstruct the past, we also need to turn our attention to the objects these civilizations left behind, artifacts that tell stories of craftsmanship, trade, and daily life. In the next section, we'll explore how these tangible pieces of history help us piece together the world of forgotten cultures. Artifacts are more than just objects, they're time capsules, preserving the essence of civilizations long gone. Each piece, whether a humble tool or an ornate treasure, carries a story, offering us a tangible connection to the people who crafted and used them. Consider the Terracotta Army, discovered in China in 1974. This vast collection of life-sized clay soldiers, horses, and chariots was buried with the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, over 2,000 years ago. Initially, it might seem like a grand display of power, but look closer, and you'll see intricate details, unique facial features, armor designs, and even traces of original paint. These figures weren't just meant to intimidate, they were a reflection of the emperor's vision of an eternal empire, guarded by an army even in the afterlife. Through these artifacts, we glimpse not only the ambition of a ruler, but also the skill and labor of countless artisans whose names history has forgotten. Another remarkable discovery is the Antikythera Mechanism, a device found in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in the early 20th century. At first glance, it resembles a corroded lump of metal, but careful study revealed it to be an ancient analog computer, capable of predicting astronomical positions and eclipses. Dating back to around 100 BCE, this intricate piece of engineering challenges our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. It reminds us that innovation isn't confined to the modern era. Our ancestors were capable of astonishing feats of ingenuity, even with the limited tools at their disposal. Yet, interpreting these artifacts isn't always straightforward. Without context, an object can tell only part of its story. Take, for example, the thousands of small, carved figurines found across the Indus Valley. Were they toys, religious icons, or something else entirely? The absence of written records makes it difficult to say with certainty. Similarly, the preservation of artifacts poses its own challenges. Exposure to the elements, looting, and even the passage of time can degrade these precious links to the past. Efforts to conserve them, like the painstaking restoration of the Terracotta Army or the delicate cleaning of the Antikythera Mechanism, require a blend of science, patience, and respect for the craftsmanship of ancient hands. What's fascinating is how these artifacts continue to shape our understanding of history. They reveal not just the grand achievements of emperors and elites, but the everyday lives of ordinary people. A simple cooking pot can tell us about diet and trade routes, while a piece of jewelry might hint at social status or cultural exchange. These objects bridge the gap between the past and present, allowing us to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. But as we uncover these treasures, we're also left to wonder, what will future generations learn from the artifacts we leave behind? In a world of disposable technology and digital records, will our own time capsules endure? The question invites us to reflect on how we preserve our own history and what we want it to say about us. As we marvel at these tangible pieces of the past, we're reminded that artifacts are just one part of the puzzle. To truly understand ancient civilizations, we must also look at the structures they built, monuments and cities that stand as enduring testaments to their vision and ingenuity. In the next section, we'll explore how architecture shapes our understanding of these forgotten cultures, revealing not just how they lived, but how they saw themselves and their place in the world. The grandeur of ancient architecture speaks volumes about the societies that built it. These structures weren't just functional, they were expressions of power, faith, and ingenuity, standing as enduring symbols of human achievement. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance. Constructed over 4,500 years ago, it remains one of the most awe-inspiring feats of engineering in history. Built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, its precise alignment with the cardinal points and its massive scale reflect not only the Egyptians' advanced understanding of mathematics and astronomy, but also their deep spiritual beliefs in the afterlife. The sheer effort required to quarry, transport, and assemble millions of limestone blocks is a testament to the organization and resourcefulness of a civilization that valued permanence and legacy. In Mesopotamia, the ziggurats tell a different story. These towering, step-like temples, such as the famous ziggurat of Ur, were more than just places of worship, they were the heart of city life. Built from mud bricks and adorned with intricate designs, ziggurats served as both religious centers and symbols of a city's prosperity. Their construction required meticulous planning and a coordinated workforce, revealing a society that valued hierarchy and communal effort. The ziggurats also highlight the Mesopotamians' ability to adapt to their environment, using locally available materials to create lasting monuments despite the region's harsh climate. Then there are the cliff dwellings of the ancestral Pueblones, nestled into the rugged landscapes of the American Southwest. These structures, carved into sheer rock faces, demonstrate a remarkable understanding of natural resources and environmental harmony. The Pueblones used stone, wood, and clay to build multi-story homes that were not only sturdy, but also strategically positioned to maximize sunlight and protection from the elements. Their architecture reflects a deep connection to the land and a resourceful approach to survival in an arid environment, but these architectural marvels face an uncertain future. Modern development, tourism, and climate change pose significant threats to their preservation. Rising temperatures, for example, can cause ancient stone to crack and erode, while increased rainfall in some regions threatens to wash away fragile adobe structures. Efforts to protect these sites often require a delicate balance between conservation and accessibility, ensuring that future generations can appreciate their beauty and significance. What's striking about these structures is how they reveal the priorities of the cultures that built them. Whether it's the Egyptians' obsession with eternity, the Mesopotamians' focus on divine authority, or the Puebloans' harmony with nature, each building tells a story about the values and beliefs of its creators. These architectural wonders remind us that even the most ancient societies were capable of extraordinary innovation and vision. As we marvel at these feats of engineering, it's worth considering the networks that connected these civilizations. Trade routes stretching across continents and oceans brought people, goods, and ideas together, shaping the world in ways we're only beginning to understand. In the next section, we'll explore the mysteries of these ancient trade routes and the profound impact they had on the development of human culture. The world's first global connections didn't come with satellites or the internet. They were forged by the footsteps of traders, the creak of camel caravans, and the steady rhythm of ships cutting through ancient seas. Trade routes like the Silk Road and the Incense Route were far more than mere pathways for goods. They were lifelines that carried ideas, technologies, and cultures across continents, knitting distant civilizations together in ways that still resonate today. Picture a merchant in ancient China packing silks, spices, and porcelain onto a camel, knowing that these goods would eventually reach the markets of Rome or the courts of Persia. These journeys weren't just about commerce, they were about connection. Along these routes, languages mingled, religions spread, and innovations traveled, transforming societies in their wake. The Silk Road, perhaps the most famous of these ancient highways, stretched over 4,000 miles, linking the East and West. It wasn't a single road, but a sprawling network of paths that carried not only silk but also paper, gunpowder, and even philosophies like Buddhism from one end of Eurasia to the other. But the Silk Road was just one thread in a much larger tapestry. The Incense Route, for example, brought frankincense and myrrh from the Arabian Peninsula to the Mediterranean, turning cities like Petra and Palmyra into bustling hubs of trade and culture. These cities weren't just stops along the way, they were melting pots, where merchants, scholars, and artisans exchanged not only goods, but also knowledge and traditions. The architecture of Petra, with its rock-cut facades and intricate water systems, reflects the influence of countless cultures that passed through its gates. What's fascinating is how these trade routes shaped the rise and fall of empires. The wealth generated by trade allowed cities to flourish, but it also made them targets. When the Roman Empire's demand for luxury goods grew, it fueled the prosperity of Eastern kingdoms, but it also strained its own economy. Similarly, the decline of the Silk Road in the late Middle Ages had ripple effects across Eurasia, contributing to the fragmentation of once powerful states. These networks weren't just economic engines, they were political and cultural forces that could make or break civilizations. Yet, the impact of these routes goes beyond economics and politics. They remind us that innovation thrives on exchange. The compass, for instance, traveled from China to the Middle East and Europe, revolutionizing navigation and opening new horizons for exploration. Even the spread of diseases, like the Black Death, reminds us of the interconnectedness of these ancient worlds. It's a lesson that feels strikingly relevant today. In a globalized world, the movement of people and ideas can bring both progress and challenges. As we reflect on these ancient trade routes, it's impossible not to wonder how they shaped the spiritual landscapes of the civilizations they touched. Alongside goods and technologies, religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam spread along these paths, transforming the beliefs and practices of entire regions. In the next section, we'll explore how faith and spirituality played a central role in the lives of forgotten cultures, leaving behind legacies that continue to inspire and intrigue us. Religion has always been a cornerstone of human civilization, shaping not only how people lived, but also how they saw the world around them. From the towering temples of Angkor Wat to the mysterious Nazca lines etched into the Peruvian desert, sacred spaces and rituals offer a glimpse into the spiritual lives of ancient societies. These sites weren't just places of worship, they were the heart of communities, where beliefs, traditions, and power intersected. Take Angkor Wat, for example. Built in the 12th century, this sprawling temple complex in Cambodia was both a religious sanctuary and a symbol of the Khmer Empire's might. Its intricate carvings depict scenes from Hindu mythology, reflecting the empire's devotion to the gods and its rulers' divine authority. Yet, as the empire shifted to Buddhism, Angkor Wat transformed, blending new beliefs with old traditions, a testament to the enduring power of faith in shaping cultures. In ancient Greece, the Oracle of Delphi held a different kind of spiritual significance. Perched on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, this sacred site was believed to be the center of the world, where the god Apollo spoke through his priestess, the Pythia. People from all over the Mediterranean journeyed to Delphi seeking guidance on matters of war, politics, and personal life. The oracle's cryptic prophecies were interpreted by priests, who wielded immense influence over kings and commoners alike. This blend of mystery and authority made Delphi a focal point of Greek religion and politics, illustrating how spirituality and power were deeply intertwined. But not all sacred spaces are as straightforward to interpret. The Nazca lines, massive geoglyphs carved into the Peruvian desert, remain one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. These sprawling designs, visible only from the air, include intricate patterns, animals, and human-like figures, while some theories suggest they were used in religious rituals or as celestial calendars. Their true purpose remains elusive. Without written records, piecing together the beliefs of the Nazca people is like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Yet, these mysterious lines remind us that spirituality often transcends words, manifesting in forms that challenge our understanding. At the heart of these sacred spaces were the spiritual leaders, priests, shamans, and oracles who acted as intermediaries between the human and divine realms. In Mesopotamia, priests conducted elaborate rituals to appease the gods, ensuring the fertility of the land and the prosperity of the people. In the Americas, shamans used trance-like states to communicate with spirits, offering healing and guidance to their communities. These figures weren't just religious authorities, they were custodians of knowledge, tasked with explaining the natural world and maintaining social order. Their roles reveal how deeply intertwined religion was with every aspect of life, from agriculture to governance. Interpreting these religious practices, however, is no simple task. Without written records, archaeologists must rely on artifacts, architecture, and context to piece together the spiritual lives of ancient peoples. A clay figurine might represent a deity, a fertility symbol, or a household protector, its meaning shaped by the culture that created it. Similarly, the alignment of a temple with celestial events could indicate a connection between religion and astronomy, but without explicit evidence, these interpretations remain speculative. This uncertainty underscores the complexity of ancient belief systems and the challenges of understanding them across the chasm of time. As we explore these sacred spaces, we're reminded of the profound role that spirituality played in shaping human history. These sites and rituals weren't just about faith, they were about identity, community, and the search for meaning in an often unpredictable world. And just as religion shaped the lives of ancient peoples, so too did art, another powerful medium for expressing beliefs, values, and stories. In the next section, we'll delve into the vibrant world of ancient art, uncovering how it served as a mirror to the cultures that created it. Art has always been one of humanity's most powerful tools for expression, transcending time and language to tell stories that words alone cannot capture. In the hands of ancient civilizations, art became a living record of their world, a way to communicate, commemorate, and preserve their deepest beliefs and values. From the vivid cave paintings of Lascaux to the intricate pottery of the Mach, these creations offer us a window into the minds and hearts of people who lived thousands of years ago. What can these ancient works teach us about the societies that created them, and how do they continue to resonate with us today? Take, for instance, the cave paintings of Lascaux in France, dating back over 17,000 years. These stunning images of animals, hunters, and abstract symbols aren't just early examples of human creativity, they're a testament to the power of storytelling. Some scholars believe these paintings served as a form of communication, perhaps documenting hunting strategies or spiritual rituals. Others argue they were meant to connect the physical and spiritual worlds, bridging the gap between humans and the forces of nature. Whatever their purpose, these ancient masterpieces remind us that art has always been more than decoration. It's a way to make sense of the world and our place in it. Moving forward in time, the Mach civilization of ancient Peru left behind a legacy of pottery that is as intricate as it is revealing. Their ceramic vessels, often adorned with detailed depictions of daily life, mythology, and even human sacrifice, provide a vivid snapshot of Mach society. One particularly striking example is the portrait vessels, which feature lifelike faces that some believe represent real individuals. These pieces aren't just artistic achievements, they're historical documents, preserving the stories and identities of a people who left no written records. Through their art, the Mach speak to us across the centuries, offering insights into their rituals, social hierarchy, and worldview. Then there are the colossal stone heads of the Olmecs, one of Mesoamerica's earliest civilizations. Carved from massive basalt boulders, these imposing sculptures are thought to represent rulers or deities, their stern expressions conveying authority and power. The sheer scale of these works is a testament to the Olmec's skill and ambition, but they also hint at a deeper meaning. Some researchers suggest the heads were symbols of divine kingship, linking the rulers to the gods themselves. Others see them as markers of territorial control, asserting the Olmec's dominance over the landscape. Whatever their purpose, these sculptures are a reminder of how art can embody both the sacred and the political, reflecting the values and aspirations of a society. The ancient Greeks, too, used art to tell stories and convey ideals. Their statues and frescoes often depicted gods, heroes, and mythological scenes, serving as both religious icons and moral lessons. The famous Parthenon frieze, for example, depicts a procession of Athenians honoring the goddess Athena, blending civic pride with spiritual devotion. These works weren't just meant to inspire awe, they were tools for education, shaping the cultural identity of a society that valued beauty, harmony, and excellence. What's striking about these artistic expressions is their ability to bridge the gap between past and present. A Mach pot, an Olmec head, or a Greek statue isn't just an artifact, it's a conversation, a way for ancient voices to speak to us across the ages. Through their art, these civilizations share their joys, fears, and dreams, reminding us that the human experience is both timeless and universal, but art is just one piece of the puzzle. To truly understand these cultures, we must also explore the tools and technologies they use to shape their world. In the next section, we'll uncover the mysteries of ancient innovations, from early metallurgy to engineering marvels that continue to astonish us today. The ingenuity of ancient civilizations often leaves us in awe, not just for what they achieved, but for how far ahead of their time they were. These societies developed technologies that were so advanced, some remain a mystery to us even today. Take the aqueducts of ancient Rome, for example. These monumental structures, built to transport water over vast distances, were feats of engineering that required precise calculations and innovative construction techniques. The Romans used gravity to their advantage, creating a network of channels and arches that brought fresh water to cities, public baths, and even private homes. What's remarkable is that some of these aqueducts are still standing, a testament to their durability and the skill of their builders. Yet, despite their brilliance, much of this knowledge was lost during the decline of the Roman Empire, leaving later generations to rediscover the principles of hydraulic engineering centuries later. Then there's the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a towering structure that has baffled scientists for generations. Standing over 23 feet tall and weighing more than 6 tons, this pillar was forged over 1,600 years ago from a single piece of iron. What's astonishing is its resistance to rust. Despite being exposed to the elements for centuries, modern metallurgists have studied its composition, discovering a unique combination of materials and techniques that ancient Indian blacksmiths used to create such a durable alloy. Yet, the exact methods they employed remain elusive, a reminder of how much we still have to learn from the past. The Maya, too, were masters of innovation, particularly in the field of astronomy. Their intricate calendar systems and precise observations of celestial events reveal a deep understanding of the cosmos. The Maya tracked the movements of planets, predicted eclipses, and even calculated the length of a solar year with astonishing accuracy, all without the telescopes or advanced instruments we have today. Their knowledge wasn't just theoretical. It shaped their agriculture, architecture, and religious practices. But as their civilization declined, much of this wisdom was lost, preserved only in fragmented texts and inscriptions that scholars are still working to decipher. Rediscovering these ancient technologies is no small task. Modern researchers face numerous challenges, from the lack of written records to the difficulty of replicating materials and methods. For instance, replicating the corrosion-resistant iron of the Delhi pillar has proven to be a complex puzzle, requiring a blend of historical research and experimental archaeology. Similarly, understanding the Mayas' astronomical achievements involves piecing together clues from their ruins and surviving codices, often with limited context. These efforts remind us that innovation isn't just about creating something new, it's also about preserving and learning from the past. What can modern society learn from these ancient achievements? Perhaps it's the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration, as seen in the Romans' integration of engineering and urban planning. Or maybe it's the value of sustainability, evident in the Mayas' harmonious relationship with their environment. These technologies challenge us to rethink what progress means and to consider how we can build systems that endure, both physically and culturally. As we marvel at these lost technologies, we're reminded that the environment played a crucial role in their development, and sometimes their decline. From the fertile valleys of the Indus to the arid deserts of the American Southwest, the natural world shaped the rise and fall of civilizations in ways we're only beginning to understand. In the next section, we'll explore how climate and geography influenced the destinies of these ancient cultures, uncovering the delicate balance between human ambition and the forces of nature. The story of human history is not just one of triumphs and innovations, it's also a tale of resilience in the face of nature's unpredictable forces. From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia to the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, the environment has shaped the destiny of civilizations in profound and often devastating ways. Imagine a thriving empire, its fields yielding abundant harvests, its cities bustling with trade and culture. Now picture that same society brought to its knees by a sudden shift in the climate, a drought that turns rivers to dust, or a flood that washes away entire cities. This wasn't just a possibility for ancient cultures, it was a reality that determined their survival or collapse. Take the Akkadian Empire, one of the world's first great civilizations, which ruled Mesopotamia around 4,000 years ago. At its height, the Akkadians controlled vast territories, their power built on a foundation of advanced agriculture and centralized governance, but their dominance was short-lived. Evidence from sediment cores and ancient records suggests that a catastrophic drought struck the region, lasting for centuries. Crops failed, trade routes dried up, and famine spread like wildfire. The Akkadian Empire, once a beacon of human achievement, crumbled under the weight of environmental stress. This wasn't just a local disaster, it was part of a global climate event known as the 4.2 kiloyear event, which affected civilizations from Egypt to India. The Akkadian collapse serves as a stark reminder of how fragile even the mightiest empires can be when faced with the whims of nature. The Maya civilization, too, offers a cautionary tale. Flourishing in the jungles of Central America for over 1,000 years, the Maya built towering cities, developed intricate calendars, and mastered the arts of astronomy and mathematics. Yet by the 9th century CE, many of their great cities lay abandoned. What caused this dramatic decline? While warfare and political instability played a role, environmental factors were a critical piece of the puzzle. Prolonged droughts, likely exacerbated by deforestation and soil depletion, made it increasingly difficult to sustain large populations. The Mayas' reliance on rainwater for agriculture left them vulnerable to shifts in climate, and their once thriving cities were gradually reclaimed by the jungle. Some communities adapted by relocating or changing their farming practices, but others were unable to recover. The Maya collapse illustrates the delicate balance between human ambition and the natural world, a balance that, when disrupted, can have far-reaching consequences. But it's not all stories of downfall. Some societies found ways to adapt to environmental challenges, showcasing remarkable ingenuity and resilience. The ancient Egyptians, for example, thrived in one of the world's most arid regions by harnessing the annual floods of the Nile. Their intricate irrigation systems and agricultural techniques turned the desert into a breadbasket, sustaining a civilization that endured for millennia. Similarly, the ancestral Pueblones of the American Southwest built their cliff dwellings and terraced fields to maximize water efficiency, allowing them to thrive in an environment with scarce rainfall. These examples remind us that while nature can be a formidable adversary, human creativity and adaptability can sometimes turn the tide. What lessons do these ancient collapses and adaptations hold for us today? As we face the growing challenges of climate change, rising temperatures, extreme weather, and sea level rise, the past offers both warnings and inspiration. The Akkadian and Maya collapses underscore the importance of sustainability and the need to prepare for environmental shifts. At the same time, the resilience of cultures like the Egyptians and Puebloans shows that innovation and cooperation can help us navigate even the most daunting challenges. History teaches us that the relationship between humanity and the environment is a dynamic one, shaped by both vulnerability and resourcefulness. As we reflect on the role of climate in shaping civilizations, it's worth considering another force that has played a pivotal role in human history: warfare. From territorial disputes to conquests that reshaped entire regions, conflict has been a constant companion to human progress. In the next section, we'll explore how war shaped the rise and fall of forgotten cultures, uncovering the strategies, alliances, and legacies that continue to echo through time. Warfare has been a defining force in human history, shaping the rise and fall of civilizations in ways that echo through the ages. From the sweeping conquests of Alexander the Great to the fierce battles of the Aztec Empire, conflict has left an indelible mark on the stories of forgotten cultures. These ancient wars were not just clashes of armies, they were catalysts for change, driving innovation, cultural exchange, and the evolution of societies. But what can the weapons, strategies, and fortifications of these ancient peoples tell us about their world and ours? Consider Alexander the Great, whose military campaigns reshaped the ancient world in the 4th century BC. With an army of highly trained soldiers and a mastery of tactics, Alexander conquered vast territories, from Greece to Egypt and as far as India. His success wasn't just due to brute force, it was his ability to adapt and innovate. The phalanx, a tightly packed formation of soldiers armed with long spears, became a hallmark of his strategy, allowing his troops to overwhelm larger forces. Yet, Alexander's legacy extends beyond his victories. His conquests brought Greek culture, language, and ideas to the lands he conquered, sparking a period of cultural fusion known as the Hellenistic Age. Statues, temples, and even entire cities bore the marks of Greek influence, blending with local traditions to create something entirely new. In this way, war became a conduit for creativity and exchange, proving that conflict can sometimes pave the way for progress. On the other side of the world, the Aztecs of Mesoamerica waged wars with a very different purpose. For them, conflict was deeply intertwined with religion and politics. The Aztec Empire, centered in the city of Tenochtitlan, relied on a system of tribute and expansion to sustain its power. Their warriors, armed with obsidian-tipped swords and wooden shields, fought not just for territory, but for captives to be used in religious sacrifices. These rituals, though brutal by modern standards, were seen as essential to maintaining the cosmic order and appeasing the gods. Yet, the Aztecs' military prowess also had a practical side. Their network of alliances and fortifications allowed them to dominate the region for centuries, until the arrival of Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century brought their empire to an abrupt end. The fall of the Aztecs serves as a stark reminder of how external forces can reshape the destiny of even the most powerful civilizations. But warfare wasn't just about conquest and destruction. It also spurred technological and artistic advancements. The invention of the chariot, for example, revolutionized ancient warfare, giving armies greater mobility and firepower. In ancient China, the crossbow became a game changer, allowing soldiers to strike from a distance with deadly accuracy. These innovations weren't confined to the battlefield. They often found their way into civilian life, influencing everything from transportation to architecture. Even the arts were shaped by war. The epic poems of Homer, for instance, immortalized the Trojan War, blending myth and history to explore themes of heroism, loss, and the human condition. In this way, conflict became a source of inspiration, driving creativity and self-reflection. The impact of warfare extended beyond the battlefield, influencing the very structures of governance and society. In ancient Rome, military success was a path to political power, with generals like Julius Caesar using their victories to ascend to leadership. The Roman legions, renowned for their discipline and engineering skills, built roads, forts, and aqueducts that connected the empire and facilitated its expansion. Yet, this reliance on military might also have its downsides, as internal strife and external pressures eventually led to Rome's decline. The story of Rome reminds us that while war can build empires, it can also sow the seeds of their downfall. As we reflect on the role of warfare in shaping ancient cultures, it's impossible not to wonder how these conflicts influenced the way societies were governed. From the autocratic rule of emperors to the complex alliances of city-states, the politics of the past were deeply intertwined with the realities of war. In the next section, we'll delve into the mysteries of ancient governance, exploring how rulers maintained power, organized their societies, and navigated the challenges of leadership in a world defined by uncertainty and change. Governance in ancient civilizations was as diverse as the cultures themselves, a complex tapestry of power, authority, and innovation. From the city-states of Mesopotamia to the sprawling empires of the Inca, each society developed its own unique systems to manage resources, maintain order, and navigate the challenges of leadership. But how did these systems work, and what can they teach us about the nature of power and governance today? Let's take a closer look at how some of history's most fascinating societies organized themselves politically, often with surprising sophistication. In Mesopotamia, often regarded as the cradle of civilization, governance took the form of city-states ruled by kings who claimed divine authority. These rulers weren't just political leaders, they were intermediaries between the gods and the people, responsible for ensuring the prosperity and stability of their domains. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known legal codes, offers a glimpse into how these early governments functioned. Carved into a towering stone stele, the code outlined laws governing everything from trade and property to family disputes and criminal offenses. While it may seem harsh by modern standards, with punishments often fitting the crime in a literal sense, it was a groundbreaking attempt to create order and fairness in a complex society. The role of councils and advisors also played a significant part, offering a balance to the king's authority and ensuring that decisions reflected the needs of the community. Fast forward to the Inca Empire, and we see a very different model of governance. Unlike the fragmented city-states of Mesopotamia, the Inca created a highly centralized empire that stretched across much of South America. At its heart was the Sapa Inca, the emperor who was seen as a descendant of the sun god Inti. Below him was a vast bureaucracy of administrators, known as curacas, who oversaw everything from agriculture to infrastructure. The Inca's system of governance was built on reciprocity and redistribution. Communities contributed labor and resources to the state, and in return, the state provided security, infrastructure, and access to goods. This intricate network of roads, storehouses, and communication systems, like the famous quipu, a system of knotted cords used for record keeping, shows just how advanced their administrative capabilities were. Yet, much of what we know about Inca governance comes from Spanish accounts, leaving gaps in our understanding that archaeologists and historians continue to fill. Interpreting these ancient political systems is no easy task. Without written records, archaeologists often rely on artifacts, architecture, and context to piece together how these societies were governed. For example, the grand palaces of Mesopotamia or the administrative centers of the Inca offer clues about the distribution of power and resources, but these interpretations are often speculative, shaped by the biases and perspectives of modern researchers. The challenge lies in distinguishing between what these societies claimed about themselves through monuments, inscriptions, and propaganda, and the realities of how they function. This tension between image and reality is a reminder that governance, both ancient and modern, is as much about perception as it is about structure. What's striking about these systems is how they reflect the values and priorities of their societies. The Mesopotamians valued order and divine authority, while the Inca emphasized reciprocity and collective well-being. These differences highlight the diversity of human experience and the many ways societies have organized themselves to meet their unique challenges. Yet, they also raise questions about how these ancient systems compare to modern governance. How do our own systems of power, with their checks and balances, reflect or diverge from these early models? And what lessons can we draw from the successes and failures of the past? As we explore these questions, it's impossible to ignore the role of individuals within these systems, particularly the women who often wielded influence behind the scenes or even in positions of direct authority. From queens and priestesses to merchants and artisans, women played a vital role in shaping the political and cultural landscapes of ancient societies. In the next section, we'll uncover their stories, shedding light on the often overlooked contributions of women in history. Throughout history, the stories of women have often been overshadowed by the deeds of kings, warriors, and male rulers. Yet, behind the grand monuments and epic battles, women played pivotal roles in shaping the fabric of ancient societies, roles that were as diverse as the cultures they belonged to. From powerful queens who ruled empires to the unsung artisans, traders, and mothers who sustained daily life, women were far from passive figures in the past. Their contributions, though frequently overlooked, reveal a rich tapestry of influence and resilience that challenges our understanding of history. Take Hatshepsut, one of ancient Egypt's most remarkable rulers. While most pharaohs were men, Hatshepsut defied tradition by ascending to the throne and ruling for over 2 decades during the 15th century BCE. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was a visionary leader who commissioned monumental building projects, including her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, and expanded trade routes that brought wealth and prestige to Egypt. To legitimize her rule, she often depicted herself in traditional male attire, complete with a false beard, blending the boundaries of gender to assert her authority. Hatshepsut's reign is a testament to the ingenuity and determination of women who navigated, and often redefined, the expectations of their time, but not all women wielded power in such visible ways. In ancient Mesopotamia, women were active participants in the economy, working as merchants, weavers, and even tavern owners. Archaeological evidence, such as clay tablets recording business transactions, reveals that women could own property, make contracts, and engage in trade. These records offer a glimpse into a society where gender roles were more fluid than we might assume, challenging the stereotype of ancient women as confined to domestic spheres. Similarly, in the Mach civilization of Peru, pottery often depicts women in roles ranging from healers to warriors, suggesting a society where women's contributions were valued and multifaceted. Yet, reconstructing the lives of ancient women is no easy task. Much of what we know comes from male-dominated records, inscriptions, texts, and art created by and for men. This bias often obscures the full picture of women's lives, leaving us to piece together their stories from fragments. For example, while we know about powerful queens like Hatshepsut, the everyday experiences of ordinary women, their struggles, triumphs, and daily routines, are harder to uncover. Archaeologists must rely on subtle clues, such as burial goods, household artifacts, and skeletal remains, to infer how women lived and worked. A spindle whorl found in a grave might hint at a woman's role as a weaver, while jewelry or tools could suggest her social status or occupation. What's striking is how these findings challenge our assumptions about gender roles in the past. In some societies, like the Vikings, women could inherit property, initiate divorces, and even lead expeditions. The discovery of a high-status Viking burial containing weapons and a ship has led some scholars to speculate that women may have been warriors or leaders, appending traditional narratives of Viking society. Similarly, in the ancient Indus Valley, the presence of female figurines and seals depicting women in positions of authority suggests a culture that respected and perhaps even revered women's roles. These stories remind us that history is not a single narrative but a mosaic of countless voices, each contributing to the broader human experience. By uncovering the hidden roles of women, we gain a more nuanced understanding of the past, one that reflects the complexity and diversity of human societies. But women weren't the only overlooked figures in history. Just as their stories have begun to emerge from the shadows, so too have the lives of children who played crucial roles in ancient civilizations. In the next section, we'll explore how the youngest members of these societies shaped and were shaped by the world around them. Children in ancient societies might not have had smartphones or video games, but their lives were far from simple or uneventful. Growing up in a forgotten culture meant navigating a world where play, work, and education were deeply intertwined with the traditions and expectations of their communities. From the clay dolls of ancient Greece to the intricate initiation rites of indigenous tribes, childhood in these societies was a mix of joy, responsibility, and preparation for adulthood. But what can these experiences tell us about how these cultures viewed their youngest members, and how can they inspire us to rethink childhood today? In ancient Greece, children were seen as both the future and the present. Boys and girls had distinct roles, with boys often trained in athletics, philosophy, and warfare, while girls were taught domestic skills like weaving and cooking. Yet, play was an essential part of life for all children. Archaeologists have unearthed a variety of toys, from miniature chariots and dolls to rattles and spinning tops, suggesting that even in a society obsessed with intellectual and physical prowess, there was room for imagination and fun. These toys weren't just for entertainment, they also served as tools for learning and socialization, helping children practice the roles they would one day assume as adults. A clay doll, for instance, might teach a young girl about motherhood, while a wooden sword could prepare a boy for the responsibilities of a warrior. But childhood wasn't always about play. In many ancient cultures, children were expected to contribute to their families and communities from a young age. Among the Inca, children as young as 5 or 6 helped with farming, herding, and household chores. This early introduction to work wasn't just about necessity, it was a way of instilling values like discipline, cooperation, and respect for the land. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, children often followed in their parents' footsteps, learning trades like pottery, weaving, or scribing through hands-on experience. These apprenticeships weren't just practical. They were a way of preserving cultural knowledge and ensuring the survival of skills across generations. For some societies, childhood was marked by transformative rituals that prepared children for adulthood. Among the indigenous tribes of the Americas, initiation rites were a common practice, often involving tests of endurance, bravery, or spiritual insight. These ceremonies weren't just about proving oneself, they were a way of integrating young people into the fabric of their communities, giving them a sense of identity and purpose. For example, among the Lakota Sioux, the Vision Quest was a rite of passage where adolescents sought guidance from the spirit world, often through fasting and solitude. These experiences shaped not only the individual but also the collective identity of the tribe, reinforcing cultural values and social bonds. Studying the lives of ancient children, however, is no easy task. Unlike kings or warriors, children rarely left behind grand monuments or written records. Archaeologists must rely on subtle clues like the size of tools, the wear patterns on toys, or the remains of small clothing to piece together their stories. Even then, much of what we know is speculative, shaped by the biases and assumptions of modern researchers. For example, while we might interpret a small clay figurine as a toy, it could have also held religious or symbolic significance. This uncertainty reminds us of the challenges of reconstructing the past and the importance of approaching it with humility and curiosity. What can these ancient childhoods teach us about our own approach to parenting and education? Perhaps it's the value of balancing play and responsibility, or the importance of integrating children into the broader community. These insights invite us to reflect on how we nurture the next generation and how we can learn from the wisdom of the past. As we explore the lives of ancient children, it's impossible not to wonder how their societies cared for their health and well-being. From herbal remedies to surgical techniques, ancient medicine was a fascinating blend of science, spirituality, and tradition. In the next section, we'll uncover the mysteries of how these civilizations healed the sick and preserved life, revealing a world where the line between medicine and magic was often blurred. The pursuit of health and healing is as old as humanity itself, and the medical practices of ancient civilizations reveal a fascinating blend of science, spirituality, and creativity. Long before modern hospitals and pharmaceuticals, societies around the world developed their own ways of understanding and treating illness, drawing on the resources and knowledge available to them. From the surgical precision of the Inca to the holistic traditions of Ayurveda in India, these ancient approaches to medicine offer a window into how our ancestors viewed the human body, disease, and the delicate balance between life and death. One of the most striking examples of ancient medical ingenuity comes from the Inca, who practiced a procedure known as trepanation. This involved drilling or cutting a hole into the skull, often to relieve pressure caused by head injuries or neurological conditions. Remarkably, evidence from excavated skulls shows that many patients survived these surgeries, with signs of healing around the edges of the openings. The tools used sharpened obsidian blades and bronze instruments testify to the skill and precision of Inca surgeons. But trepanation wasn't just about physical healing, it was also deeply tied to spiritual beliefs. Some scholars suggest that the procedure was thought to release evil spirits or restore balance to the body and mind. This blend of practical and spiritual healing underscores how ancient medicine often intertwined the physical and metaphysical, addressing both the symptoms of illness and its perceived root causes. In ancient India, the Ayurvedic tradition took a very different approach, focusing on harmony between the body, mind, and environment. Rooted in texts like the Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, Ayurveda emphasized prevention as much as cure, using diet, herbs, and lifestyle practices to maintain balance in the body's three doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Ayurvedic practitioners also developed sophisticated surgical techniques, including cataract removal and plastic surgery, centuries before these procedures became common in the West. The Sushruta Samhita, for instance, describes detailed methods for reconstructing noses and ears, showcasing a deep understanding of anatomy and wound care. What's remarkable about Ayurveda is its enduring relevance. Even today, millions around the world turn to its principles for holistic health and wellness. Yet, interpreting ancient medical practices isn't without its challenges. Many of these traditions were passed down orally or recorded in texts that are difficult to decipher. For example, the Ebers Papyrus, an ancient Egyptian medical document, contains hundreds of remedies and spells, but understanding their context and effectiveness requires careful analysis. Similarly, the tools and artifacts left behind, like bone needles, clay pots for storing herbs, or surgical instruments, often require archaeologists to piece together how they were used. This detective work is complicated by the fact that ancient medical practices often combined practical techniques with rituals and beliefs that might seem unfamiliar or even superstitious to modern eyes. A clay figurine found in a healer's tomb, for instance, might have been used in a ritual to ward off disease, but its exact purpose remains open to interpretation. What can modern medicine learn from these ancient practices? While we've made incredible advancements in science and technology, there's much to be gained from the holistic perspective of traditions like Ayurveda, which views health as a balance of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Similarly, the surgical innovations of the Inca and ancient India remind us that ingenuity and resourcefulness have always been at the heart of healing. These ancient systems also highlight the importance of cultural context in medicine, how beliefs and traditions shape the way we understand and treat illness. In an era where modern medicine often feels impersonal or fragmented, these insights offer a valuable reminder of the human element in healing. As we reflect on the medical practices of the past, it's impossible not to consider how these societies sustained themselves. Health and healing were deeply connected to the food they ate, the crops they cultivated, and the ways they managed their environment. In the next section, we'll explore the role of food and agriculture in ancient civilizations, uncovering how these practices shaped their survival, culture, and legacy. Food is more than sustenance, it's a reflection of who we are. In ancient civilizations, what people ate, how they grew it, and how they shared it shaped their societies in profound ways. From the maize fields of the Maya to the vineyards of ancient Rome, food was a cornerstone of culture, economics, and identity. But how did these ancient diets come to be, and what can they teach us about the challenges and triumphs of feeding a civilization? Let's dig into the fascinating world of ancient agriculture and culinary traditions, where feasts and famines alike tell the story of human ingenuity and resilience. Take the Maya, for example. Their diet revolved around maize or corn, which wasn't just a staple crop, it was a sacred symbol of life itself. The Maya believed that humans were created from maize, and this humble grain shaped every aspect of their culture. They developed sophisticated agricultural techniques, such as terracing and raised fields, to grow maize in the challenging terrain of the Yucatan Peninsula. But maize wasn't just eaten, it was transformed into tortillas, tamales, and even a fermented drink called atole, playing a central role in both daily meals and religious rituals. The Mayas' reliance on maize also had its risks. When drought struck, as they did during the Maya collapse, the failure of maize crops could spell disaster for entire cities. This delicate balance between abundance and scarcity is a reminder of how deeply food is tied to survival and culture. On the other side of the world, the Romans turned food into an art form. Their empire's vast trade networks brought spices, grains, and exotic ingredients from every corner of the known world, creating a cuisine as diverse as the empire itself. Wine, in particular, was a Roman obsession. Vineyards stretched across the countryside, and wine-making became a symbol of Roman sophistication and wealth. But food wasn't just about indulgence, it was also a tool of power. Lavish banquets, or convivia, were opportunities for the elite to display their status, while bread and circuses kept the masses content. The Roman grain dole, a system that provided free or subsidized grain to citizens, highlights how food could be used to maintain political stability. Yet, this reliance on imported grain also made the empire vulnerable to disruptions in trade, showing how food systems can shape and sometimes destabilize entire civilizations. Studying ancient diets, however, is no simple task. Archaeologists rely on a variety of clues, from charred seeds and animal bones to pottery residues and human remains. For example, isotopic analysis of bones can reveal what people ate by tracing the chemical signatures of different foods. A study of ancient Andean skeletons showed that quinoa and potatoes were staples long before the Inca Empire, offering insights into how diets evolved over time. But interpreting these findings requires careful consideration. A broken pot with traces of wine might tell us about trade and consumption, but it doesn't reveal the social rituals surrounding its use. Similarly, the absence of certain foods in the archaeological record doesn't necessarily mean they weren't eaten. It could simply mean they didn't preserve well. These challenges remind us that reconstructing ancient diets is as much about imagination as it is about evidence. What can these ancient food practices teach us today? In a world grappling with climate change, food insecurity, and unsustainable farming, the past offers both warnings and inspiration. The Mayas' reliance on maize shows the risks of depending too heavily on a single crop, while the Romans' complex trade networks highlight the benefits and vulnerabilities of globalization. At the same time, the ingenuity of ancient farmers, from terracing to crop rotation, offers lessons in sustainability and resilience. These practices remind us that food is more than just a commodity. It's a connection to the land, to each other, and to the cultures that came before us. As we reflect on the role of food in ancient societies, it's worth considering how these cultures celebrated life beyond the dinner table. Just as food nourished the body, music and dance nourished the soul, bringing communities together in moments of joy, ritual, and connection. In the next section, we'll explore the rhythms and melodies of ancient cultures, uncovering how music and dance shaped their identities and left an enduring legacy that still resonates today. Music and dance are universal languages, transcending time and place to connect us in ways that words alone cannot. In ancient societies, these art forms were more than just entertainment, they were the heartbeat of culture, weaving together rituals, stories, and emotions. From the haunting notes of bone flutes in prehistoric Europe to the thunderous drumming of West Africa, music and dance were essential threads in the fabric of daily life. They celebrated births, mourned deaths, marked the changing of seasons, and even communicated with the divine. But how did these ancient rhythms shape the societies that created them, and what can they teach us about the power of art to unite and inspire? Imagine standing in a cave tens of thousands of years ago, the flickering light of a fire casting shadows on the walls. In your hands, you hold a flute carved from the hollow bone of a bird, its simple design belying the complexity of the music it can produce. This isn't just a tool, it's a portal to the past, offering a glimpse into the lives of our prehistoric ancestors. The oldest known musical instruments, these flutes, discovered in sites like Germany's Hohlfels cave, date back over 40,000 years. Their haunting melodies, likely used in rituals or communal gatherings, remind us that music has always been a way to express the inexpressible, to connect with something greater than ourselves. These ancient tunes weren't just sounds, they were stories, prayers, and celebrations, echoing through the ages. In West Africa, the drumming traditions of cultures like the Yoruba and Akan reveal a different kind of musical legacy. Here, drums weren't just instruments, they were voices, carrying messages across vast distances and serving as a form of communication long before the written word. The intricate rhythms of the talking drums could mimic the tones and patterns of human speech, allowing communities to share news, warnings, and celebrations. But drumming was also deeply spiritual, a way to connect with ancestors and the divine. In ceremonies, the pounding of drums and the swaying of dancers created a powerful synergy, bringing people together in moments of collective joy and reverence. These traditions, passed down through generations, remind us that music and dance are more than art, they are lifelines, binding communities and preserving identity. Reconstructing ancient music and dance, however, is no easy task. Without written scores or recordings, archaeologists and historians must rely on fragments, carvings, paintings, and the occasional surviving instrument to piece together how these art forms sounded and moved. A fresco from ancient Crete might depict dancers in graceful motion, but it doesn't tell us the rhythm of their steps or the melodies that accompanied them. Similarly, a set of bone flutes can give us a sense of pitch and scale, but it can't fully capture the emotions or intentions behind the music. These challenges remind us that while we can uncover the tools and symbols of ancient art, its soul remains elusive, a mystery that invites both curiosity and humility. Yet, even with these limitations, the echoes of ancient music and dance resonate in surprising ways. Modern performers and scholars have worked to recreate these lost traditions, blending historical research with creativity to bring the past to life. For example, the reconstructed sounds of ancient Mesopotamian lyres or the reimagined steps of Inca ceremonial dances offer a glimpse into how these art forms might have been experienced. These efforts aren't just about nostalgia, they're a way to connect with the creativity and resilience of our ancestors, finding common ground across the centuries. As we reflect on the rhythms of the past, it's worth asking, how do these ancient traditions influence us today? From the beats of contemporary music to the movements of modern dance, the legacy of these art forms is everywhere, a testament to their enduring power. They remind us that music and dance are more than entertainment, they're expressions of who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. But just as music and dance connected ancient societies to the rhythms of life, another form of art connected them to the rhythms of the cosmos. In the next section, we'll turn our gaze skyward, exploring how forgotten cultures used astronomy to navigate, worship, and understand their place in the universe. Long before telescopes and space probes, ancient civilizations gazed at the night sky with wonder and curiosity, seeking answers to the mysteries of the universe. For them, the stars weren't just distant lights, they were guides, storytellers, and divine messengers. From the towering stones of Stonehenge to the intricate calendars of the Maya, astronomy played a central role in shaping the way these societies lived, worshipped, and governed. But how did they unlock the secrets of the cosmos, and what can their celestial insights teach us today? Take Stonehenge, for instance. This iconic monument in England, built over 4,000 years ago, is a marvel of ancient engineering and astronomy. Its massive stones are precisely aligned with the movements of the sun, marking the solstices and equinoxes with striking accuracy. During the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone, casting its rays deep into the heart of the circle. Was Stonehenge a temple, an observatory, or both? While we may never know for certain, its design reveals a deep understanding of celestial patterns and a reverence for the cycles of nature. For the people who built it, the sky was a living calendar, dictating the rhythms of planting, harvesting, and celebration. Far across the Atlantic, the Maya developed one of the most sophisticated astronomical systems in the ancient world. Their calendars, carved into stone and recorded in codices, tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with astonishing precision. The Maya believed that time was cyclical, and their intricate calculations allowed them to predict celestial events like eclipses and the transit of Venus. These predictions weren't just scientific achievements, they were deeply tied to religion and governance. Kings used their knowledge of the heavens to legitimize their rule, linking their reigns to the divine order of the cosmos. The Maya's ability to merge astronomy with everyday life shows how interconnected the practical and the spiritual could be. But studying ancient astronomy isn't always straightforward. Without written records, archaeologists must piece together clues from artifacts, architecture, and alignments. For example, the Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs etched into the desert, are thought to have astronomical significance, possibly marking solstices or constellations. Yet their exact purpose remains a mystery, leaving us to wonder how much of their meaning has been lost to time. Even when we do have texts, like the Babylonian star catalogs, interpreting them requires a blend of historical knowledge, linguistic skill, and scientific insight. These challenges remind us that ancient astronomy is as much about interpretation as it is about discovery. What can modern science learn from these ancient stargazers? While we've made incredible advancements in understanding the universe, the holistic approach of cultures like the Maya and the builders of Stonehenge offers valuable lessons. Their ability to integrate astronomy with agriculture, religion, and governance shows how science can be woven into the fabric of society, rather than existing in isolation. As we grapple with modern challenges like climate change and space exploration, these ancient insights remind us that the sky has always been a source of inspiration and guidance. As we marvel at the celestial knowledge of the past, it's impossible not to wonder how these cultures explain the mysteries they observed. For many ancient societies, the stars weren't just scientific phenomena, they were the stuff of myth and legend. In the next section, we'll delve into the rich world of ancient mythology, exploring how stories of gods, heroes, and monsters shaped the way these cultures understood their place in the cosmos. Myths and legends are more than just stories, they are the lifeblood of civilizations, carrying the hopes, fears, and wisdom of entire cultures. From the Epic of Gilgamesh to the sagas of Norse gods, these tales served as a way to explain the unexplainable, to teach moral lessons, and to connect people to the mysteries of existence. They were the original textbooks, passed down through generations, shaping how societies understood the world and their place within it. But what do these ancient narratives reveal about the people who created them, and how do they continue to echo in our modern world? Consider the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known stories in human history. Written on clay tablets in ancient Mesopotamia over 4,000 years ago, it follows the journey of a king who seeks immortality after the death of his friend, Enkidu. Through his adventures, Gilgamesh grapples with themes of mortality, friendship, and the meaning of life, questions that are as relevant today as they were millennia ago. The story isn't just a tale of heroism, it's a reflection of the human condition, offering insights into how ancient Mesopotamians viewed life, death, and the divine. The epic also explains natural phenomena, such as the Great Flood, which appears in similar forms across cultures, from the Bible to Hindu texts. These shared stories hint at the universal human need to make sense of the world through narrative. On the other side of the world, Norse mythology paints a vivid picture of a cosmos filled with gods, giants, and fate. The tales of Odin, Thor, and Loki aren't just thrilling adventures. They're a way to explain the natural world, from thunderstorms to the changing seasons. The Norse believed their gods were deeply intertwined with the forces of nature, and their myths reflected this connection. For example, the story of Ragnarok, the apocalyptic battle that ends the world, can be seen as a metaphor for the cyclical nature of life and death, destruction and renewal. These myths weren't just entertainment, they were a way to instill values like bravery, loyalty, and resilience, shaping the identity of the Norse people. Yet, interpreting these myths isn't always straightforward. Without the cultural context in which they were created, we risk misreading their meanings. Take the Greek myth of Pandora's box, for instance. Today, it's often seen as a cautionary tale about curiosity, but in its original context, it may have been a way to explain the existence of evil and suffering in the world. Similarly, the Hindu epic of the Ramayana isn't just a story of good versus evil. It's a complex narrative about duty, honor, and the human struggle for righteousness. These layers of meaning remind us that myths are more than just stories. They're windows into the values and concerns of the cultures that created them. What's fascinating is how these ancient narratives continue to influence modern storytelling. From the archetypes of heroes and villains to the themes of transformation and redemption, the echoes of ancient myths can be found in everything from Shakespeare's plays to Marvel movies. The story of Gilgamesh, for example, has inspired countless works of literature and film, while Norse mythology has become a cornerstone of fantasy genres. These enduring connections show that myths are more than relics of the past. They're living traditions that continue to shape how we see ourselves and the world around us. As we reflect on the power of myths and legends, it's impossible not to wonder how these stories intersected with the most profound mysteries of life, death, and the afterlife. For ancient cultures, death wasn't an end but a transition, a journey into the unknown that was often marked by elaborate rituals and beliefs. In the next section, we'll explore the burial practices of forgotten civilizations, uncovering how they honored their dead and what these traditions reveal about their understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond. Death, the great unknown, has always been one of humanity's most profound mysteries. For ancient cultures, it wasn't just an ending, it was a doorway to another realm, a transition marked by rituals, beliefs, and objects that reveal as much about life as they do about death. From the elaborate mummification practices of ancient Egypt to the sky burials of Tibet, the ways in which societies honored their dead offer a fascinating glimpse into their values, fears, and hopes for what lay beyond. In ancient Egypt, death was seen as a journey, and the preparation for it was nothing short of extraordinary. The process of mummification, which could take up to 70 days, was a meticulous blend of science and spirituality. Organs were carefully removed and preserved in canopic jars, while the body was treated with natron, a natural salt, to prevent decay. But mummification wasn't just about preserving the body, it was about ensuring the soul's safe passage to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the soul, or Ka, needed a physical vessel to exist eternally, and the elaborate tombs filled with offerings, from food to jewelry, were meant to provide for the deceased in the next world. The famous pyramid texts, inscribed on the walls of royal tombs, reveal spells and prayers designed to guide the pharaohs through the perilous journey of the afterlife. These rituals weren't just for the elite. Even ordinary Egyptians hoped for a place in the field of reeds, a paradise where they could live forever in peace and abundance. On the other side of the world, the ancient Tibetans practiced a very different kind of burial, one that might seem startling to modern eyes. Sky burials, also known as celestial funerals, involved placing the deceased on mountaintops to be consumed by vultures. Far from being a sign of disrespect, this practice was deeply rooted in Buddhist beliefs about the impermanence of the body and the cycle of reincarnation. By offering the body to the birds, the living believed they were helping the soul detach from its earthly form and move on to the next life. This act of generosity, known as jadar, was seen as a final act of compassion, a way to give back to nature and honor the interconnectedness of all life. The stark contrast between the Egyptian and Tibetan approaches to death highlights how cultural beliefs shape our understanding of what comes after. But interpreting these ancient burial practices isn't always straightforward. Archaeologists often face the challenge of piecing together fragments of evidence, from skeletal remains to grave goods, to reconstruct the rituals and beliefs of forgotten societies. For example, the discovery of burial mounds in ancient Europe has revealed a wealth of information about the people who built them, from their social hierarchies to their spiritual beliefs. Yet without written records, much of what we know is speculative. A grave filled with weapons might suggest a warrior's burial, but was it a celebration of their life, a preparation for the afterlife, or both? These questions remind us that death is as much about the living as it is about the dead. What do these practices tell us about the cultures that created them? In many ways, they reflect the values and priorities of their societies. The Egyptians' elaborate tombs and mummification rituals reveal a deep concern with preservation and continuity, while the Tibetans' sky burials emphasize impermanence and harmony with nature. These contrasting approaches invite us to consider how our own beliefs about death shape the way we live. Do we fear the unknown, or do we see it as a natural part of life's cycle? How do we honor those who have passed, and what do these traditions say about who we are? As we reflect on the mysteries of death and the afterlife, it's worth considering how these ancient cultures preserved their stories and knowledge for future generations. Writing, whether carved in stone, pressed into clay, or inked onto parchment, became a way to immortalize their beliefs, laws, and histories. In the next section, we'll uncover the secrets of ancient writing systems, exploring how they evolved and what they reveal about the societies that created them. Writing is one of humanity's most transformative inventions, a tool that allowed ancient civilizations to record their thoughts, laws, and histories for future generations. From the wedge-shaped marks of cuneiform to the elegant symbols of hieroglyphs, writing systems were more than just a way to communicate. They were reflections of the cultures that created them. But how did these systems evolve, and what can they tell us about the societies that relied on them to preserve their stories and ideas? The story of writing begins in Mesopotamia, around 3200 BCE, with the invention of cuneiform. Developed by the Sumerians, this system used wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay tablets to represent words and sounds. At first, cuneiform was used primarily for accounting, keeping track of grain, livestock, and trade goods. But over time, it evolved into a sophisticated script capable of recording everything from epic poetry to legal codes. The famous Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known literary works, was written in cuneiform, offering a glimpse into the values and beliefs of ancient Mesopotamia. What's remarkable is how this system spread, adapting to different languages and cultures across the region, from Akkadian to Babylonian. Cuneiform wasn't just a tool for communication, it was a bridge between civilizations, enabling the exchange of ideas and knowledge on an unprecedented scale. In ancient Egypt, writing took on a more symbolic form with hieroglyphs. These intricate characters, carved into temple walls and painted on papyrus, were more than just a means of record-keeping. They were sacred symbols believed to hold magical power. The Egyptians called their writing Medu Neter, or words of the gods, reflecting its divine origins in their eyes. Hieroglyphs were used for everything from royal decrees to funerary texts, like the Book of the Dead, which guided souls through the afterlife. But hieroglyphs weren't the only script the Egyptians used. Over time, they developed simpler forms like hieratic and demotic for everyday use. This adaptability shows how writing evolved to meet the needs of a society, from the sacred to the mundane. Yet, not all ancient scripts have been as cooperative. Take Linear A, used by the Minoans of Crete around 3,500 years ago. Despite decades of study, this script remains undeciphered, leaving much of Minoan culture shrouded in mystery. The challenge lies in the lack of a bilingual text, like the Rosetta Stone, which helped scholars crack Egyptian hieroglyphs. Without a key to unlock its meaning, Linear A remains a tantalizing puzzle, a silent testament to a civilization that once thrived in the Mediterranean. Similarly, the Indus script, used by the Indus Valley civilization over 4,000 years ago, continues to baffle researchers. With no known descendants or related languages, its symbols resist interpretation, leaving us to wonder what stories they might tell. Deciphering these ancient scripts is no easy task. It requires a blend of linguistic skill, historical knowledge, and a dash of creativity. Take the work of Jean-François Champollion, who cracked the code of Egyptian hieroglyphs in the early 19th century. By comparing the Greek text on the Rosetta Stone with the hieroglyphs, he was able to identify phonetic and symbolic elements, opening the door to understanding one of the world's most iconic writing systems. Today, researchers use similar methods, along with advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, to analyze patterns and make educated guesses about undeciphered scripts. But even with these tools, the process is painstaking, a reminder of how much we still have to learn about the past. What's fascinating is how these writing systems shaped the identities of the cultures that used them. For the Sumerians, cuneiform was a tool of administration and trade, reflecting their pragmatic approach to governance. For the Egyptians, hieroglyphs were a connection to the divine, a way to immortalize their beliefs and rituals. These systems weren't just about recording information, they were about defining who these people were and what they valued. They remind us that writing is more than a practical skill, it's a cultural artifact, a window into the soul of a civilization. As we marvel at these ancient scripts, it's worth considering how they facilitated another crucial aspect of human society: trade. Writing allowed merchants to keep records, negotiate contracts, and communicate across vast distances, laying the groundwork for the complex economies that shaped the ancient world. In the next section, we'll explore how trade routes connected distant cultures, bringing not only goods but also ideas, technologies, and traditions that transformed the course of history. Wealth and power, two forces that have shaped human societies since the dawn of civilization. But how did ancient cultures generate, distribute, and control their riches? Unlike today's globalized economies with digital transactions and stock markets, the economic systems of forgotten civilizations were built on barter, tribute, and early forms of currency. These systems weren't just about money, they were about survival, influence, and the intricate web of relationships that held societies together. From the bustling trade networks of the Phoenicians to the tribute-based economies of the Aztecs, the ways ancient peoples managed their resources reveal much about their values, ambitions, and challenges. The Phoenicians, for instance, were the master traders of the ancient Mediterranean. Their economy revolved around commerce, with ships laden with goods like purple dye, glass, and cedar wood crisscrossing the seas. What set the Phoenicians apart was their ability to establish trade colonies, such as Carthage, which became economic powerhouses in their own right. These colonies weren't just outposts, they were hubs of cultural exchange, where ideas, technologies, and goods flowed freely. The Phoenicians' reliance on trade rather than agriculture or conquest shows how diverse ancient economies could be, adapting to their environment and leveraging their strengths to build wealth. In Mesoamerica, the Aztecs took a very different approach. Their economy was built on a system of tribute, where conquered territories paid goods like maize, textiles, and even luxury items like jade and feathers to the imperial capital of Tenochtitlan. This tribute wasn't just a tax, it was a symbol of power and control, reinforcing the Aztec emperor's authority over vast swaths of land. Markets also played a crucial role, with the great market of Tlatelolco serving as a bustling center of commerce where everything from food to slaves could be bought and sold. Yet, the Aztec economy was deeply intertwined with their religious and social systems, reflecting a worldview where wealth and spirituality were inseparable. Studying these ancient economies, however, is no simple task. Archaeologists rely on a patchwork of evidence: coins, pottery, trade goods, and even the remains of marketplaces, to piece together how these systems functioned. Take, for example, the discovery of ancient coins in Lydia, a region in modern-day Turkey. These coins, made from electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, are among the earliest known examples of currency. Their introduction marked a major shift from barter-based economies to systems where value could be standardized and stored. Yet, without detailed records, much of what we know about these early economies is speculative, shaped by the artifacts left behind and the challenges of interpreting them. What can these ancient economic systems teach us about our own? In many ways, they reflect the same tensions and trade-offs that define modern capitalism. The Phoenicians' reliance on trade highlights the importance of networks and connections, while the Aztecs' tribute system underscores how wealth can be used to consolidate power. Yet, these systems also remind us that economies are deeply tied to culture and environment. The Phoenicians thrived because of their access to the sea, while the Aztecs built their empire in a region rich in resources but fraught with competition and conflict. These differences invite us to consider how our own economic systems are shaped by the world around us, and how they might evolve in the future. As we delve into the complexities of ancient economies, it's impossible not to wonder how these societies maintained order and enforced fairness. From the Code of Hammurabi to the laws of ancient Greece, the concept of justice has always been central to human civilization. In the next section, we'll explore the role of law and governance in forgotten cultures, uncovering how they sought to balance power, protect rights, and uphold the social order. Justice is a concept as old as civilization itself, a cornerstone of how societies organize, resolve conflicts, and maintain order. For ancient cultures, the need to establish fairness and enforce rules was just as pressing as it is today, though their methods might seem worlds apart from modern courts and legal codes. From the stone-carved laws of Mesopotamia to the intricate justice systems of the Inca, these ancient legal frameworks reveal a surprising depth of thought and innovation. But how did these societies define justice, and what can their systems teach us about the timeless struggle to balance power and fairness? One of the earliest and most famous examples of ancient law is the Code of Hammurabi, etched into a towering stone stele in Babylon around 1750 BC. This collection of 282 laws covered everything from property disputes and trade regulations to family matters and criminal offenses. What's striking about Hammurabi's code isn't just its breadth, it's its principle of retributive justice, often summarized as an eye for an eye. This idea might seem harsh by modern standards, but it was revolutionary for its time, establishing the concept that punishments should fit the crime. The code also reflected the social hierarchy of Babylonian society, with different penalties for nobles, commoners, and slaves. Yet, it wasn't just about punishment. It was about creating a sense of order and predictability in a complex, urbanizing world. The fact that these laws were inscribed in stone and displayed publicly speaks to their importance. They were meant to be seen, known, and followed by all. In the Andes, the Inca Empire developed a very different approach to justice, one deeply rooted in their communal and hierarchical society. The Inca legal system was based on the principle of reciprocity, where every action had consequences and every member of society had responsibilities. At the top was the Sapa Inca, the emperor, who was seen as the ultimate arbiter of justice. Below him, a network of local officials and judges, known as curacas, handled disputes and enforced laws. Punishments varied depending on the severity of the crime and the status of the individual, but the Inca system also emphasized rehabilitation and reintegration. For example, thieves might be required to work off their debt, while repeat offenders could face exile or even death. What's fascinating is how the Inca blended justice with their spiritual beliefs, viewing lawbreaking as a disruption of cosmic harmony that needed to be corrected. Interpreting these ancient legal systems, however, is no simple task. For many cultures, especially those without written records, piecing together how justice was administered requires a mix of archaeology, anthropology, and educated guesswork. Take the Mach civilization of ancient Peru, for example. Their elaborate pottery often depicts scenes of conflict and punishment, but without accompanying texts, it's difficult to know exactly how their legal system functioned. Were these images literal representations of justice or symbolic expressions of power and authority? Similarly, the discovery of ancient courtrooms or trial records, like those found in Egypt or Mesopotamia, offers tantalizing clues, but much of what we know is shaped by the biases and limitations of our sources. A clay tablet recording a trial might tell us who won the case, but it doesn't reveal the emotions, motivations, or broader social context behind the dispute. What's remarkable about these ancient legal systems is how they reflect the values and priorities of their societies. The Code of Hammurabi emphasized order and hierarchy, while the Inca system balanced punishment with community restoration. These differences highlight the diversity of human approaches to justice, but they also raise questions about how these early systems influenced the laws we live by today. Many modern legal principles, from the presumption of innocence to the idea of proportional punishment, have roots in these ancient traditions. Yet, these systems also remind us that justice is never static. It evolves with the societies it serves, shaped by changing values, technologies, and challenges. As we reflect on the legal systems of the past, it's worth considering how these cultures dealt with another fundamental aspect of human life: movement. Migration, whether driven by war, climate, or opportunity, has been a constant force in shaping civilizations. From the nomadic tribes of the steppes to the seafaring explorers of the Pacific, the stories of ancient migration are as diverse as they are fascinating. In the next section, we'll uncover the mysteries of how and why these forgotten cultures moved across the globe, and what their journeys reveal about the human drive to explore and adapt. Migration has always been a defining feature of human history, a story of movement, adaptation, and discovery that spans continents and millennia. From the intrepid Polynesian navigators who crossed vast oceans to the Bantu peoples who spread across Africa, ancient migrations were driven by a complex mix of necessity, ambition, and opportunity. These journeys weren't just about finding new lands, they were about survival, connection, and the relentless human drive to explore the unknown. But what compelled these ancient peoples to uproot their lives, and what can their movements teach us about the resilience and diversity of human cultures? Consider the Polynesians, some of the most skilled navigators in history. Using the stars, ocean currents, and even the flight patterns of birds, they sailed across thousands of miles of open water in double-hulled canoes, settling remote islands like Hawaii, New Zealand, and Easter Island. Their voyages, which began around 3,000 years ago, were feats of ingenuity and courage, requiring not only technical skill, but also a deep understanding of the natural world. But what drove them to undertake such perilous journeys? Some scholars suggest it was a combination of population pressure, resource scarcity, and the lure of new horizons. Whatever the reason, their migrations transformed the Pacific, creating a network of connected cultures that shared language, traditions, and a profound respect for the ocean that sustained them. On the other side of the world, the Bantu migrations tell a different story. Beginning around 2,000 years ago, Bantu-speaking peoples began to move out of their homeland in West Africa, spreading across the continent in waves. This expansion wasn't just a movement of people, it was a diffusion of ideas, technologies, and languages that reshaped the cultural landscape of Africa. The Bantu brought with them agricultural practices, ironworking, and a shared linguistic heritage that still influences the region today. Their migrations were driven by a mix of environmental changes, such as the spread of the Sahara Desert, and social factors, including the search for fertile land and new opportunities. The result was a mosaic of cultures, each shaped by the unique challenges and opportunities of their new environments. Tracing these ancient migrations, however, is no simple task. Archaeologists and geneticists use a combination of tools, from pottery styles and linguistic patterns to DNA analysis, to piece together the paths our ancestors took. For example, The spread of Lapita pottery across the Pacific helps map the movement of Polynesian settlers, while genetic studies of modern populations reveal traces of ancient Bantu migrations. Yet, these methods have their limitations. Artifacts can only tell us so much, and genetic data often raises as many questions as it answers. How did these groups interact with the people they encountered? What challenges did they face along the way? These questions remind us that migration is more than just a physical journey. It's a story of adaptation, conflict, and exchange. What's fascinating is how these ancient migrations continue to shape the world today. The Polynesians' seafaring legacy lives on in the traditions of modern Pacific Islanders, while the Bantu migrations left a lasting imprint on African languages, cultures, and genetics. These movements remind us that human history is a tapestry woven from countless threads, each one contributing to the rich diversity of our world. But migration isn't just a human story, it's also a story of the animals that accompanied us on our journeys, from domesticated dogs and cats to livestock that transformed ancient societies. As we reflect on the journeys of our ancestors, it's worth considering how their stories intersect with the animal companions who shared their lives. In the next section, we'll explore the role of animals in ancient societies, uncovering how they shaped human history in ways both profound and surprising. Animals have always been more than just companions or resources. They've been partners, symbols, and even gods in the eyes of ancient civilizations. From the sacred cats of Egypt to the mighty war elephants of India, animals played a central role in shaping the lives, beliefs, and economies of forgotten cultures. But how did these relationships begin, and what can they tell us about the way ancient societies viewed the natural world? Let's explore the fascinating interplay between humans and animals in the past, and how these bonds continue to influence our understanding of ethics and coexistence today. In ancient Egypt, animals were deeply intertwined with both daily life and spirituality. Cats, for instance, were revered as sacred beings associated with the goddess Bastet, who symbolized protection, fertility, and the home. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was considered a grave offense, punishable by death. But this reverence wasn't limited to felines. The ibis, a bird associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom, was mummified and buried in vast numbers. Crocodiles, linked to Sobek, were also worshipped and even kept in temple pools. These animals weren't just symbols, they were living connections to the divine, embodying the gods themselves. This sacred relationship between humans and animals reveals a worldview where the natural and spiritual realms were inseparable. On the other side of the world, in ancient India, elephants were far more than just majestic creatures. They were symbols of power and tools of war. The use of war elephants dates back to at least the 4th century BCE, with armies like those of the Mauryan Empire employing these massive animals to intimidate enemies and break through enemy lines. But elephants weren't just weapons. They were also symbols of royalty and wisdom, often depicted in art and literature as companions to kings and sages. The bond between humans and elephants required immense skill and trust, as trainers, or mahouts, spent years forming close relationships with their charges. This unique partnership highlights how animals could shape not only military strategy, but also cultural identity. Yet, animals weren't always revered or celebrated. They were also essential to survival. In Mesopotamia, for example, the domestication of animals like sheep, goats, and cattle revolutionized agriculture, providing a steady supply of meat, milk, and wool. These animals weren't just resources, they were part of the family, often living in close proximity to their human caretakers. Similarly, in the Andes, llamas and alpacas were indispensable to the Inca, serving as pack animals, sources of wool, and even sacrificial offerings. The domestication of animals allowed ancient societies to flourish, but it also came with challenges, such as disease and the need for sustainable grazing practices. These early relationships laid the groundwork for modern agriculture and animal husbandry, but they also raise questions about how we balance utility with ethical treatment. Studying the role of animals in ancient cultures, however, is no simple task. Archaeologists often rely on a mix of evidence, from animal bones and teeth to artistic depictions and written records. For example, the discovery of horse skeletons buried alongside chariots in ancient China offers insights into how these animals were used in warfare and ceremony. Yet, interpreting these findings requires careful consideration. A clay figurine of a dog might suggest companionship, but was it a beloved pet or a symbol of loyalty? Similarly, the presence of animal remains in a tomb could indicate sacrifice, ritual, or even a belief in an afterlife shared with animals. These questions remind us that our understanding of the past is always evolving, shaped by new discoveries and perspectives. What can these ancient relationships teach us about our own treatment of animals today? As we grapple with issues like factory farming, wildlife conservation, and animal rights, the past offers both cautionary tales and inspiration. The reverence for animals in Egypt and India reminds us of the deep connections that can exist between species, while the practical uses of animals in Mesopotamia and the Andes highlight the need for sustainable and ethical practices. These ancient bonds invite us to reflect on how we interact with the natural world and what responsibilities we owe to the creatures who share our planet. As we close this chapter on animals in ancient cultures, it's worth considering how plants also shaped the lives of these civilizations. From medicinal herbs to sacred trees, the flora of the past played a vital role in survival, spirituality, and innovation. In the next section, we'll turn our attention to the green world of forgotten cultures, exploring how plants influenced their diets, rituals, and even their economies. Plants were far more than just a backdrop in the lives of ancient civilizations. They were the lifeblood of survival, spirituality, and innovation. From the sacred lotus that symbolized rebirth in ancient Egypt to the coca leaves that fueled the rituals of the Inca, plants shaped every aspect of these societies. They were food, medicine, and symbols of the divine, woven into the fabric of daily life and the rhythms of the natural world. But how did these ancient cultures harness the power of plants? And what can their practices teach us about our own relationship with the green world around us? Let's step into the lush landscapes of the past and uncover the secrets of how plants shaped forgotten civilizations. Take the Inca, for example. High in the Andes, where thin air and rugged terrain made farming a challenge, the Inca mastered the art of cultivating coca leaves. These leaves weren't just a crop, they were a cornerstone of Inca culture. Chewed or brewed into tea, coca leaves provided energy and alleviated the effects of altitude sickness, making them essential for laborers, messengers, and even soldiers. But coca also held spiritual significance, used in rituals to honor the gods and connect with the natural world. The Incas' reverence for coca highlights how plants could bridge the practical and the sacred, serving both bodily needs and spiritual aspirations. In ancient Egypt, the sacred lotus held a similar dual role. This striking flower, with its vibrant petals and intoxicating fragrance, was more than just a beautiful plant. It was a symbol of creation and rebirth. The lotus was believed to emerge each morning from the primordial waters, mirroring the sun's daily journey across the sky. It adorned temple walls, was used in religious ceremonies, and even found its way into cosmetics and perfumes. The lotus wasn't just a plant, it was a living metaphor for the cycle of life, death, and renewal that lay at the heart of Egyptian spirituality. Its presence in art and ritual reminds us how deeply plants were intertwined with the worldview of ancient cultures. But plants weren't just symbols or spiritual tools, they were also the foundation of ancient economies. The development of agriculture, from the fertile fields of Mesopotamia to the terraced farms of the Andes, transformed human societies, enabling them to settle, grow, and thrive. The Inca, for instance, engineered elaborate systems of terraces and irrigation channels to grow maize, potatoes, and quinoa, turning steep mountainsides into productive farmland. These innovations weren't just about survival, they were about creating abundance, supporting large populations, and building complex societies. Similarly, the Egyptians' mastery of wheat and barley cultivation along the Nile allowed them to sustain one of the most enduring civilizations in history. Agriculture wasn't just a practical necessity, it was a driver of cultural and technological advancement. Studying how ancient cultures used plants, however, is no easy task. Unlike stone tools or pottery, plants are fragile and often don't survive in the archaeological record. Archaeologists must rely on indirect clues, such as pollen grains, seeds, or the residue left in ancient pots, to piece together what people ate or how they used plants. For example, the discovery of charred grains in a cooking pit might reveal what crops were grown, while the analysis of residue in a clay jar could hint at medicinal or ritual uses. Yet, these methods have their limits. A single grain of pollen can't tell us how a plant was processed or why it was valued. These challenges remind us that much of what we know about ancient plant use is a mosaic of educated guesses and fragmentary evidence. What's fascinating is how these ancient practices can inform modern sustainability efforts. The Incas' terraced farming techniques, for instance, offer lessons in how to cultivate crops in challenging environments, while the Egyptians' reliance on the Nile's annual floods underscores the importance of working with natural cycles rather than against them. These practices invite us to rethink how we grow and use plants today. In a world facing climate change and resource depletion, could the wisdom of the past help us build a more sustainable future? As we marvel at the ingenuity of ancient plant use, it's impossible not to wonder how these cultures transformed another gift of the earth, metal. From the gleaming gold of Egypt to the bronze weapons of Mesopotamia, metallurgy was a game changer for ancient societies. In the next section, we'll uncover the mysteries of how these civilizations mastered the art of working with metal, shaping not only their tools and treasures, but also their destinies. Metals have shaped human history in ways both practical and profound, serving as tools, ornaments, and symbols of power. From the gleaming gold of the Mach to the iron smelting of the Nok, ancient civilizations mastered the art of working with metals, transforming raw materials into objects of beauty and utility. These achievements weren't just feats of craftsmanship, they were milestones in human innovation, marking the transition from simple stone tools to complex metallurgical techniques. But how did these ancient cultures unlock the secrets of metalworking? And what can their creations tell us about their ingenuity and worldview? Let's step into the forges of the past and uncover the stories behind these remarkable achievements. Take the Nok culture of West Africa, for example. Flourishing around 2,500 years ago, the Nok were among the earliest known societies to smelt iron in sub-Saharan Africa. Their iron tools and weapons weren't just functional, they were revolutionary, enabling the Nok to clear forests, cultivate crops, and defend their communities with greater efficiency. But what's truly remarkable is how they achieved this without the advanced technology we take for granted today. Using clay furnaces and bellows, they heated iron ore to incredibly high temperatures, separating the metal from impurities in a process that required both skill and precision. This mastery of ironworking wasn't just a technological leap, it was a cultural one, laying the groundwork for future civilizations in the region. On the other side of the world, the Mach of ancient Peru were celebrated for their exquisite goldwork. Using techniques like hammering, soldering, and gilding, Mach artisans created intricate jewelry, ceremonial masks, and even entire suits of armor. These objects weren't just displays of wealth, they were symbols of divine power and connection to the gods. Gold, with its luminous, unchanging quality, was seen as a sacred material, closely associated with the sun and the afterlife. The Mach's ability to transform this precious metal into works of art speaks to their artistic vision and technical skill, but it also reveals a society deeply invested in the spiritual and symbolic dimensions of their craft. Studying ancient metallurgy, however, comes with its own set of challenges. Unlike stone or pottery, metal artifacts are often prone to corrosion and decay, leaving behind only fragments of their former glory. Archaeologists must rely on a mix of physical evidence, experimental archaeology, and even modern technology to piece together how these ancient techniques worked. For example, the discovery of slag, the waste material left over from smelting, can provide clues about the temperature and methods used in metal production. Similarly, microscopic analysis of metal objects can reveal the composition of alloys and the techniques used to shape them. Yet, much of what we know remains speculative, shaped by the limitations of the evidence and the creativity of researchers. A rusted sword might tell us about the strength of an alloy, but it can't fully capture the skill and artistry of the blacksmith who forged it. What's fascinating is how these ancient innovations continue to influence modern industry. The Nok's iron smelting techniques, for instance, laid the foundation for later African civilizations, while the Mach's gold-working traditions inspired the artistry of the Inca. These achievements remind us that the roots of modern metallurgy stretch far back into the past, shaped by the ingenuity and experimentation of countless generations. But they also raise questions about the ethical and environmental impacts of metal production today. How can we balance the demand for metals with sustainable practices, and what lessons can we learn from the resourcefulness of ancient cultures? As we marvel at the brilliance of ancient metallurgy, it's worth considering another form of craftsmanship that transformed the lives of these societies: textiles. From the intricate weavings of the Andes to the vibrant dyes of the Mediterranean, fabrics were more than just clothing. They were expressions of culture, status, and identity. In the next section, we'll unravel the threads of ancient textile production, exploring how these forgotten cultures turned fibers into art and utility. Textiles are often called the fabric of civilization, and for good reason. Long before the invention of writing or the wheel, humans were spinning, dyeing, and weaving fibers into cloth, creating garments, tapestries, and trade goods that tell the story of who they were. From the intricate weavings of the Paracas culture in ancient Peru to the luxurious silks of China, textiles were far more than just practical items. They were expressions of identity, artistry, and social standing. How did these ancient craftspeople transform humble threads into masterpieces? And what can their creations teach us about the societies that made them? Let's unravel the threads of history and explore the vibrant world of ancient textiles. In the arid deserts of southern Peru, the Paracas culture left behind one of the most astonishing textile legacies in the ancient world. Their fabrics, often used to wrap the dead in elaborate funerary bundles, are renowned for their complexity and vibrant colors. Using natural dyes from plants, minerals, and even insects, Paracas weavers created intricate patterns featuring mythical creatures, geometric designs, and symbolic imagery. These textiles weren't just decorative, they were deeply spiritual, believed to protect and guide the deceased in the afterlife. The sheer skill required to produce such detailed work, often on looms no wider than a few feet, speaks to the Paracas' mastery of their craft. Yet, these fabrics also reveal a society where art and ritual were inseparable, where every stitch told a story. On the other side of the globe, ancient China's silk production revolutionized trade and culture. Legend has it that silk was discovered by the Empress Lizu around 2700 BCE, when a cocoon fell into her tea, unraveling to reveal a shimmering thread. Whether myth or fact, the Chinese monopoly on silk production became a cornerstone of their economy and a symbol of their sophistication. Silk wasn't just a luxury item, it was a diplomatic tool, traded along the Silk Road to distant lands like Rome, where it was worth its weight in gold. The intricate patterns and dyes used in Chinese silks also reflected social hierarchies, with certain colors and motifs reserved for the emperor and nobility. This fusion of artistry and status shows how textiles could be both beautiful and deeply political, yet preserving these ancient fabrics is no easy task. Unlike stone or metal, textiles are fragile, prone to decay from moisture, insects, and even the passage of time. Archaeologists often find only fragments, requiring painstaking effort to piece together their original designs and techniques. For example, the discovery of a single thread dyed with a rare pigment can reveal trade networks stretching across continents, while the weave of a fabric might hint at the tools and methods used to create it. These challenges remind us that every thread we uncover is a precious link to the past, offering insights into the lives of people who lived thousands of years ago. What's fascinating is how these ancient textile traditions continue to influence modern fashion and culture. The intricate patterns of Paracas weavings inspire contemporary designers, while the allure of silk remains as timeless as ever. These traditions invite us to reflect on the enduring power of textiles, not just as clothing or decoration, but as a medium for storytelling, identity, and connection. They remind us that every piece of fabric carries a history, woven from the creativity and skill of those who came before us. As we marvel at these ancient textiles, it's worth considering how these societies found moments of joy and leisure amidst their daily lives. Beyond the loom and the forge, ancient cultures also turned to games and recreation as a way to connect, compete, and celebrate. In the next section, we'll explore the role of games in forgotten civilizations, uncovering how play shaped their communities and left a lasting legacy on the world of sports and entertainment. Games and recreation, these are the universal threads that bind humanity across time and culture. Long before video games or streaming services, ancient societies found joy, competition, and connection through their own forms of play. From the strategic depths of Egyptian board games to the high-stakes athleticism of the Mesoamerican ball game, these activities were more than just pastimes, they were reflections of the values, beliefs, and social structures of the civilizations that created them. But how did these ancient games evolve, and what can they teach us about the people who played them? Let's step into the playful side of history and uncover the stories behind these fascinating diversions. In ancient Egypt, one of the most beloved games was Senet, a board game that dates back to around 3100 BCE. Played on a grid of 30 squares, Senet involved moving pieces based on the roll of dice or casting sticks, with the goal of reaching the end of the board. But this wasn't just a game of chance, it was steeped in symbolism. The journey of the pieces mirrored the soul's passage through the afterlife, reflecting the Egyptians' deep spiritual beliefs. Senet boards have been found in tombs, placed alongside the deceased to accompany them on their journey to the next world. This blend of recreation and ritual shows how games could serve both as entertainment and as a way to connect with the divine. Across the Atlantic, the Mesoamerican ball game took competition to an entirely different level. Played on stone courts found in cities like Chichen Itza, this high-energy sport involved teams trying to keep a rubber ball in play using only their hips, elbows, or knees. The ball game wasn't just a test of skill and endurance, it was a deeply symbolic event, often tied to religious rituals and political power. Some scholars believe the game reenacted mythological battles between gods, while others suggest it was used to resolve conflicts or even determine the fate of prisoners. The stakes were high, with some evidence suggesting that losing players, or even the winners, could be sacrificed. This blend of sport, ceremony, and high drama reveals how games could be far more than mere entertainment in ancient societies. Studying these ancient games, however, comes with its own set of challenges. Unlike durable artifacts like pottery or tools, game pieces and boards are often fragile and rarely survive intact. Archaeologists must piece together fragments of evidence, a broken die here, a faded painting there, to reconstruct how these games were played and what they meant to the people who enjoyed them. For example, the discovery of gaming pieces in a Mesopotamian tomb might suggest a love of strategy, but without written records, the rules of the game remain a mystery. Similarly, interpreting the symbolism of the Mesoamerican ball game requires a deep understanding of the myths and rituals that surrounded it. These puzzles remind us that the past is full of gaps and uncertainties, inviting us to imagine and explore. What's fascinating is how these ancient traditions resonate with modern leisure. The strategic thinking of Senet echoes in today's board games, while the teamwork and athleticism of the Mesoamerican ball game find their counterparts in sports like soccer or basketball. These connections remind us that, despite the vast differences in technology and culture, the human desire for play is timeless. Whether it's a game of chance, a test of skill, or a ritualized competition, games have always been a way to bring people together, to challenge ourselves, and to find joy in the midst of life's challenges. As we reflect on the playful side of ancient cultures, it's worth considering how these societies navigated the wider world. Just as games allowed people to explore strategy and competition, the art of navigation enabled them to cross vast distances, discover new lands, and connect with distant peoples. In the next section, we'll set sail into the mysteries of ancient navigation, uncovering how civilizations like the Polynesians and Phoenicians mastered the seas and expanded their horizons. The vast, uncharted seas have always been both a challenge and an invitation for humanity. For ancient civilizations, the ocean was not just a barrier. It was a highway, a source of sustenance, and a canvas for exploration. From the Polynesians, who navigated the Pacific with nothing but the stars and the waves, to the Vikings, whose sleek longships carried them to the edges of the known world, the art of navigation was a testament to human ingenuity and courage. How did these cultures master the treacherous waters of the unknown, And what can their achievements teach us about the spirit of exploration that drives us still? Let's set sail into the stories of ancient navigators and the tools that guided their journeys. The Polynesians stand as some of history's greatest seafarers, their voyages spanning thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean. Without compasses or maps, they relied on an intricate understanding of the natural world. Their star compass, a mental map of the heavens, allowed them to navigate by the positions of the sun, moon, and stars. They also read the ocean itself, interpreting the direction of waves, the color of the water, and even the flight patterns of birds to find their way. This deep connection to their environment wasn't just practical, it was spiritual, reflecting a worldview where humans and nature were deeply intertwined. The Polynesians' ability to traverse vast distances with such precision is a reminder of how much can be achieved through observation, intuition, and respect for the natural world. In the cold waters of the North Atlantic, the Vikings took a different approach to navigation. Their iconic longships, with their shallow drafts and symmetrical designs, were marvels of engineering, capable of sailing both open seas and narrow rivers. The Vikings used a combination of tools and techniques to guide their journeys, including the sun compass, a wooden disc with markings that indicated the sun's position, and the enigmatic sunstone, a crystal believed to help locate the sun on overcast days. They also relied on landmarks, oral traditions, and a keen sense of the tides and currents. These methods allowed them to explore and settle far-flung lands, from Iceland to Greenland and even North America, long before Columbus set sail. The Vikings' seafaring prowess wasn't just about conquest, it was about survival, trade, and the relentless pursuit of new horizons. Studying ancient navigation, however, is no simple task. Unlike stone tools or pottery, the tools of seafaring, wooden ships, ropes, and sails, are fragile and rarely survive in the archaeological record. Researchers must piece together clues from boat remnants, such as the Oseberg ship in Norway, or rely on descriptions in ancient texts and oral traditions. For example, the discovery of a Viking sun compass in Greenland offers a tantalizing glimpse into their navigational methods, but much of what we know remains speculative. Similarly, the Polynesian star compass exists only in the knowledge passed down through generations, making it a challenge to fully reconstruct. These gaps remind us how much we still have to learn about the ingenuity of ancient navigators. What's remarkable is how these ancient feats of exploration continue to inspire us today. Modern adventurers, from solo sailors to space explorers, draw on the same spirit of curiosity and determination that drove the Polynesians and Vikings. Their achievements challenge us to push the boundaries of what we think is possible, whether it's crossing an ocean or venturing into the cosmos. But as we marvel at these ancient navigators, it's worth considering how they measured not just space, but time. How did they track the passing of days, seasons, and years in a world without clocks or calendars? In the next section, we'll explore the fascinating role of timekeeping in ancient cultures, uncovering how they marked the rhythms of life and the cosmos. Time, an invisible thread that weaves through every aspect of human life, has always been a mystery and a challenge to measure. For ancient civilizations, tracking the passage of days, seasons, and years wasn't just a practical necessity. It was a way to connect with the rhythms of nature, the gods, and the cosmos itself. From the precise solar calendars of the Maya to the ingenious water clocks of China, the tools and systems they created to mark time reveal a deep understanding of the world and their place within it. But how did these societies measure time, And what can their methods teach us about the interplay of science, spirituality, and daily life? The Maya, known for their astronomical prowess, developed one of the most sophisticated calendar systems in the ancient world. At its core was the Hab, a solar calendar of 365 days, divided into 18 months of 20 days each, with a short, unlucky period at the end. Alongside this, they used the Tzolk'in, a sacred calendar of 260 days, which intertwined with the Hab to create a larger cycle known as the calendar round. But the Maya didn't stop there. They also tracked longer periods using the long count, a linear system that allowed them to record historical events and predict future ones. This intricate web of calendars wasn't just about keeping track of time. It was a way to align human activities with the movements of the heavens, ensuring harmony between the earthly and the divine. Their timekeeping was so precise that it could predict celestial events like eclipses with remarkable accuracy, a testament to their deep connection with the cosmos. Meanwhile, in ancient China, timekeeping took on a different form with the invention of water clocks, or clepsydras. These devices used the steady flow of water to measure time, with intricate mechanisms that could indicate hours, days, and even the phases of the moon. One of the most famous examples is the astronomical clock tower built by Su Song in the 11th century, a marvel of engineering that combined water power with celestial observation. But water clocks weren't just tools for scientists and scholars. They played a vital role in governance, helping officials manage schedules, rituals, and even the timing of imperial decrees. This blend of practicality and precision shows how timekeeping could shape the very structure of a society, from the fields to the throne. Yet, interpreting these ancient systems is no simple task. Without written records or surviving artifacts, archaeologists and historians often face the challenge of piecing together how these devices worked and what they meant to the people who used them. For example, the Antikythera Mechanism, an ancient Greek device often called the world's first analog computer, has puzzled researchers for over a century. Its intricate gears and dials suggest it could track astronomical cycles and predict celestial events, but much of its purpose remains shrouded in mystery. Similarly, the meaning behind the Nazca lines, which some believe were used as a giant calendar, is still debated. These uncertainties remind us that the past is full of enigmas, inviting us to explore and imagine. What's fascinating is how these ancient timekeeping systems continue to influence our modern world. The Gregorian calendar, used globally today, has its roots in the Roman Julian calendar, which itself was shaped by earlier Egyptian and Mesopotamian systems. The Maya's long count even sparked a wave of fascination, and a few doomsday predictions when it supposedly ended in 2012. These connections remind us that the way we measure time is more than just a practical tool. It's a cultural artifact, reflecting our values, priorities, and understanding of the universe. As we reflect on the clocks and calendars of the past, it's worth considering how these societies passed on their knowledge to future generations. Timekeeping was just one piece of a larger puzzle education. How did ancient cultures teach their young, preserve their wisdom, and prepare their people for the challenges of their world? In the next section, we'll explore the role of education in forgotten civilizations, uncovering how they cultivated minds and shaped the future. Education has always been the cornerstone of human progress, a way to pass down knowledge, skills, and values from one generation to the next. But how did ancient civilizations ensure their wisdom survived the test of time? From the oral traditions of indigenous tribes to the formal schools of Mesopotamia and Greece, the ways in which knowledge was shared reveal a fascinating interplay of culture, innovation, and identity. What can these ancient educational practices teach us about the power of learning, and how can they inspire us to rethink the way we teach today? Let's step into the classrooms of the past and uncover the lessons they left behind. In ancient Mesopotamia, the birthplace of writing, education was a privilege reserved for the elite. Scribes, the learned class responsible for recording laws, trade deals, and religious texts, trained in specialized schools known as adabas. These institutions were far from the modern classrooms we imagine. Students often spent years mastering cuneiform, the wedge-shaped script used for writing on clay tablets. Discipline was strict, with students expected to memorize countless symbols and grammatical rules. Yet, these scribble schools weren't just about rote learning, they were gateways to power and prestige. A skilled scribe could rise to become a royal advisor, a temple priest, or a merchant of great influence. The adabas remind us that education has always been a tool for both personal advancement and societal progress. On the other side of the ancient world, in Greece, education took on a very different form. The philosophical academies of Athens, such as Plato's Academy and Aristotle's Lyceum, were hubs of intellectual inquiry, where students debated ideas about ethics, politics, and the nature of reality. Unlike the rigid structure of Mesopotamian scribble schools, Greek education emphasized critical thinking and dialogue. Students weren't just passive recipients of knowledge, they were active participants in the search for truth. This approach laid the foundation for Western philosophy and science, shaping the way we think about education even today. Yet, it's worth noting that this system was far from inclusive. Education in ancient Greece was largely reserved for free male citizens, leaving women, slaves, and foreigners on the margins. But not all ancient education was formal or exclusive. In many cultures, knowledge was passed down through oral traditions, a practice that continues to this day among indigenous communities. The griots of West Africa, for example, were storytellers and historians who memorized vast amounts of information, genealogies, laws, and epic poems, and recited them to preserve their people's history and values. Similarly, the Maori of New Zealand used chants, songs, and carvings to teach their children about their ancestors and the natural world. These oral traditions highlight the importance of storytelling in education, showing how knowledge can be preserved and transmitted without the need for writing. Studying ancient educational practices, however, comes with its own set of challenges. Without written records, much of what we know about oral traditions comes from modern descendants or archaeological clues, like carvings or artifacts that hint at how knowledge was shared. Even in societies with written records, like Mesopotamia or Greece, the experiences of marginalized groups, women, slaves, and the poor are often overlooked. This lack of evidence reminds us that history is shaped by who gets to tell the story, and it challenges us to seek out the voices that have been silenced or forgotten. What can these ancient systems teach us about education today? The Mesopotamian scribble schools remind us of the importance of discipline and mastery, while the Greek academies highlight the value of critical thinking and dialogue. The oral traditions of indigenous cultures, meanwhile, show us that education doesn't always require a classroom or a textbook. It can be woven into the fabric of daily life, passed down through stories, songs, and shared experiences. These lessons invite us to reflect on how we educate the next generation and how we can create systems that are both rigorous and inclusive. As we consider the role of education in shaping civilizations, it's impossible not to wonder how these societies applied their knowledge to the physical world. From towering pyramids to intricate aqueducts, the engineering marvels of the past are a testament to the power of learning and innovation. In the next section, we'll delve into the mysteries of ancient engineering, uncovering how these forgotten cultures turned knowledge into action, creating structures that continue to inspire awe today. The ancient world is filled with marvels that seem to defy the limits of human capability, structures so grand, so precise, that they leave us wondering, how did they do it? From the soaring aqueducts of Rome to the suspension bridges of the Inca, the engineering feats of forgotten cultures are a testament to human ingenuity and resourcefulness. These were not just projects of practicality, they were expressions of ambition, artistry, and a deep understanding of the natural world. But what drove these civilizations to build the seemingly impossible, and what can their achievements teach us about the power of innovation? Take the Roman aqueducts, for example. These towering structures, stretching for miles across rugged terrain, were designed to transport water from distant sources to cities, baths, and farms. Using gravity to their advantage, Roman engineers created a network of channels and arches that brought life-giving water to millions. The precision of their construction is staggering. Some aqueducts had a slope of just a few inches per mile, ensuring a steady flow without erosion or stagnation. But what's even more remarkable is how these aqueducts were built without modern tools or machinery. Roman engineers relied on simple yet effective techniques, like the use of wooden scaffolding and pulleys, to lift massive stones into place. The aqueducts weren't just feats of engineering, they were symbols of Roman power and ingenuity, standing as enduring reminders of a civilization that shaped the world. On the other side of the globe, the Inca accomplished their own engineering miracles with the construction of suspension bridges made from woven grass. Spanning deep gorges in the Andes, these bridges were vital for connecting the sprawling Inca Empire, allowing messengers, soldiers, and traders to traverse treacherous terrain. The Huachuca Bridge, still rebuilt annually by local communities using traditional methods, is a living testament to this ancient craft. The Incas' ability to create such durable and functional structures from natural materials is a masterclass in resourcefulness. They didn't need iron or steel, they used what the land provided, turning grass into a tool of connection and survival. This blend of practicality and creativity underscores how ancient engineers worked in harmony with their environment rather than against it. Yet, studying these ancient engineering marvels is no simple task. Much of what we know comes from ruins, fragmented texts, and the occasional surviving structure. For example, the Roman Colosseum gives us a glimpse into the advanced techniques used in concrete construction, but many of the details, like the exact mixture of materials, remain a mystery. Similarly, the Incas' use of interlocking stone blocks, fitted so precisely that not even a blade can slide between them, challenges modern engineers to replicate their methods without modern tools. These gaps in our knowledge remind us that the past is full of unanswered questions, inviting us to imagine and experiment. What's striking is how these ancient achievements continue to inspire modern engineering. The Romans' use of arches and concrete laid the foundation for countless architectural innovations, while the Incas' sustainable practices offer lessons in resource efficiency. These ancient engineers didn't just solve problems, they pushed the boundaries of what was possible, showing us that innovation is as much about creativity as it is about technical skill. Their work challenges us to think differently about our own engineering challenges, from climate resilience to urban planning. As we marvel at the bridges and aqueducts of the past, it's worth considering how these civilizations communicated their ideas and knowledge. Engineering isn't just about building, it's about collaboration, planning, and the exchange of ideas. In the next section, we'll explore the role of language in ancient societies, uncovering how words and symbols shaped their cultures and laid the groundwork for human connection. Language is more than just a tool for communication. It's the heartbeat of a culture, the thread that weaves together identity, history, and shared understanding. From the poetic hymns of ancient Sumerian to the lyrical rhythms of Quechua, the languages of forgotten civilizations offer a window into how people thought, lived, and connected with one another. But how did these languages evolve, and what can their echoes tell us about the societies that spoke them? Let's explore the rich tapestry of ancient languages, uncovering how they shaped human experience and continue to influence the way we communicate today. One of the earliest known languages, Sumerian, emerged in Mesopotamia around 3100 BCE. Written in cuneiform, a script made up of wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay, Sumerian was the language of epic poetry, royal decrees, and trade records. Its complexity reveals a society deeply invested in storytelling, governance, and commerce. Yet, Sumerian wasn't just a practical tool, it was a cultural treasure. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's oldest literary works, was written in Sumerian, capturing timeless themes of friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning. What's fascinating is how Sumerian influenced later languages, like Akkadian, which borrowed its script and adapted it for new forms of expression. This interplay between languages shows how cultures evolve, borrowing and transforming ideas as they grow. On the other side of the world, Quechua, the language of the Inca Empire, continues to thrive in the Andes today. Unlike Sumerian, Quechua was primarily an oral language, passed down through generations in songs, stories, and rituals. Its survival is a testament to the resilience of indigenous cultures, even in the face of colonization and cultural suppression. Quechua isn't just a means of communication, it's a living connection to the land, the ancestors, and the spiritual beliefs of the Inca. Words for natural features, like mountains and rivers, reflect a worldview where humans and nature are deeply intertwined. This linguistic richness reminds us that language isn't just about words, it's about how we see and relate to the world around us. However, studying ancient languages is no easy task. Many, like Sumerian, are extinct, leaving behind only fragments of their once vibrant use. Archaeologists and linguists must piece together these languages from inscriptions, texts, and even loanwords in other languages. For example, the Rosetta Stone, with its trilingual inscription, was the key to unlocking Egyptian hieroglyphs, but not all languages have such clear guides. Some, like Etruscan, remain largely undeciphered, their meanings lost to time. Even when texts survive, interpreting them requires more than just translation. It demands an understanding of context, culture, and the nuances of human expression. These challenges remind us that language is more than just grammar and vocabulary. It's a reflection of the people who spoke it. What's remarkable is how these ancient languages continue to shape modern linguistics. The study of Sumerian, for instance, has shed light on the origins of writing systems, while Quechua's complex grammar has influenced theories about how languages evolve in diverse environments. These connections show that the past isn't just a relic, it's a living resource, offering insights that can help us understand and preserve the linguistic diversity of today. As we reflect on the voices of the past, it's worth considering how their lessons can guide us in a world where languages are disappearing at an alarming rate. But languages are just one piece of the puzzle. To truly understand the legacy of forgotten cultures, we must also reflect on the broader lessons they offer, lessons about resilience, creativity, and the human capacity to adapt. In the next section, we'll explore what these ancient civilizations can teach us about navigating the challenges of our own time, from sustainability to cultural preservation. As we reach the end of this journey through the mysteries of forgotten cultures, it's worth pausing to reflect on what we've uncovered. These ancient civilizations, though separated from us by centuries or even millennia, have left behind a legacy that continues to shape our world in profound ways. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the intricate weavings of the Paracas, each culture offers a unique window into the ingenuity, resilience, and creativity of humanity. They remind us that innovation isn't a modern invention, it's a thread that runs through the fabric of human history, connecting us to the dreams and struggles of those who came before. The stories of these forgotten cultures are more than just tales of the past. They are lessons for the present and inspiration for the future. The Mayas' mastery of astronomy challenges us to look to the stars with curiosity and wonder, while the Incas' sustainable engineering practices offer a blueprint for living in harmony with our environment. The intricate trade networks of the Phoenicians and the philosophical debates of ancient Greece show us the power of connection and the value of ideas. These civilizations, in all their diversity, remind us that progress isn't linear. It's a mosaic of successes, failures, and endless possibilities. Yet, for all we've learned, the past remains full of mysteries. Why did the Indus Valley script remain undeciphered? What stories lie hidden in the Nazca lines? How did the Polynesians navigate the vast Pacific with such precision? These questions remind us that history is not a closed book but an ongoing conversation, one that invites us to explore, question, and imagine. Every discovery, whether it's a fragment of pottery or a newly deciphered text, adds another piece to the puzzle, deepening our understanding of who we are and where we've come from. In a world that often feels divided, the study of forgotten cultures offers a powerful reminder of our shared humanity. These civilizations, with their triumphs and tragedies, show us that the challenges we face today, climate change, inequality, the search for meaning, are not new. They are part of a larger story, one that spans continents and centuries. By learning from the past, we can find new ways to navigate the complexities of the present and build a more inclusive, sustainable future. As we close this chapter, let's leave with a thought from the ancient Greek philosopher Thucydides. History is philosophy teaching by examples. What lessons will we take from these forgotten voices? How will their stories inspire us to create a world that honors the wisdom of the past while embracing the possibilities of the future? Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you've enjoyed unraveling the mysteries of forgotten cultures, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more explorations into the past. Together, let's continue to uncover the stories that connect us all and keep the spirit of discovery alive. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring, and keep asking, what other secrets does